What is up, TGIF, everybody? Good morning. How y'all doing? DK Show coming to you from the TDS studios, TDS Sports Talk studios this morning. A big thanks for making us a part of your starts on this Friday morning, whether you are listening to us on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also online. Stream it up at sportstalk1051.com. Got the app, download it, take it on the go. Video streams also up and rolling here this morning on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. What do we got on a game plan here for us before we head off for the weekend here? We'll talk some hoops. Bucks barely getting in the game last night. Had to be pushed by an hour. Still trying to get out of New Orleans, thanks to all the snow down there and such. But Bucks landing around 5 p.m. last night in Milwaukee and tipping off at 7:30. So it was like land, get in the car, get to the arena, warm up, go play. And Bucks got a little bit of a slow start in the first quarter, but after that, cruise into a 125-96 victory over the Miami Heat. You had Dame almost with a triple-double last night, 29 points, 11 assists, 9 rebounds. Giannis, 25 points, 12 rebounds, double-double for him. How about Gary Trent Jr., 7 of 10 from 3 last night. Dude was on fire from deep. 21 points, all coming from 3 last night. Dude was, I was listening and watching to the game, and he started off hot last night. So Portis also putting up 16 points and 8 rebounds coming off the bench. So the Bucks picking up their 25th win of the season to improve to 25-17, and improving their home record as well, 17-7 on the season. So Bucks still holding on to that 4th spot as we enter the second half of the season for the Bucks. 4th spot in the Eastern Conference, 2 games up on the Pacers, who are in 5th. Bucks now 2.5 back from the Knicks if they want to try to get into that 3 seed. I think it's important. I know we got 40 more games to go here and such, but it's important, I think, for the Bucks to be able to get at least one of those top 4 seeds so they can get a home series to open up in the first round of the postseason. So, but also we got the NBA All-Stars announced, or starters announced yesterday. Giannis, no surprise, getting voted as a starter again. Actually, he led all players. Giannis leading all players in fan voting for the 2nd straight season. So your starters for the Eastern Conference: Giannis, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, and Karl Anthony Towns. For the Western Conference, you've got LeBron, 21 straight All-Star selections. The Joker, Jokic over there from Denver, Durant, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Steph Curry. So starting lineups were chosen from a hybrid voting system, just as a refresher. 50% of the vote coming from fans, 25% from the media, 25% from current players. It was interesting, too, because LaMelo Ball from the Hornets, who's having a really good season, he finished with the most fan votes amongst East guards, and along with Damian Lillard. But it was Brunson who got the starting spot. So, in the mix were Brunson, LaMelo Ball, and Damian Lillard. But given how, everything kind of with that hybrid voting ended up going to Brunson there. So the reserves from each conference will be unveiled next week. So possibly a good shot for Damian Lillard to still get in there. But there's a lot of guards in the Eastern Conference that could make that team. So also it was announced too that, or I should say it was reported that Andre Jackson Jr., the young Bucks guard, is going to be in the slam dunk competition. So That's coming up, though, in a couple weeks with the All-Star festivities and such. But we'll talk some hoops, and the Bucks, well, they'll continue. They got a couple games coming up here. Can they continue this ride this wave, if you will? They got the Clippers coming up tomorrow. They're going to be a lot of traveling here for the Bucks. You know, they had to stay down in New Orleans for a little bit, a little extended, had to hurry back and get home yesterday to take on the Heat. And now they're going to be going to the West Coast where they got to start a little West Coast trip there with the Clippers tomorrow. So lots of airtime, lots of travel time for the Milwaukee Bucks. Talk some hoops. We've got we'll make some picks and predicts. Who's going to go to the Super Bowl? That's what I want to hear from you this morning. What are your picks? Who are your picks to represent each conference in the Super Bowl? Going Bills, you're going Chiefs. Going Commanders, you're going Eagles. And if you want, you can give me who you think it's going to be and then who you want it to be if it's different. If you want it to be something different, you can send both of them. Because I'll tell you who I want it to be. I want it to be Commanders and Bills. Is it what I'm going to pick, though? Well, we'll do that a little bit later. But I want Commanders and Bills. What's the matchup that you would want just as a fan? Just as a fan. You got two new teams in there. You know, you got Buffalo with its history. You got Commanders with Jaden Daniels and the season that he's been having. I mean, to me, it'd be a little bit different, little refresher, little, cleansing the palate, if you will. But that's what we're going to pick. What say you? Hit me up with some texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or comment on the video streams. Speaking of the green and gold, or speaking of football, we'll continue our green and gold off-season self-scouting series. So we've hit up on coaches. We've hit up on defensive line. We've hit up on wide receivers. We're going to go back to the defensive side here this morning, and we're going to take a look at the corners. We're going to take a look at the corners. These three position groups, so this will be the third position group, not counting the coaches, but I truly believe that these three position groups are the three biggest question marks that the Packers have to decide going into the offseason. And I'd throw in offensive line probably there, maybe around fourth, just for some depth purposes. But, defensive line, do they make a move in free agency to bolster that group? Wide receiver, do they add a veteran or not? How much does Christian Watson's injury affect that decision? And then corner, the big one out there, Jair. Do you bring him back? Is he back? If he is back, do you still address corner early? If he's not back, I think you have to address corner very early. Are you confident in Keyshawn and Carrington Valentine being your top two corners? So I want to hit that up coming up a little bit later on this hour, but I'll throw those questions out to you. A couple of them. Should they bring Jair back? Maybe for one more year? Or are you confident with Keyshawn and Carrington being your top two corners moving forward? Because Eric Stokes, he's gone. Yeah, he ain't coming back. So we'll hit that up coming up here in just a little bit. Also on the docket, we'll catch up with Dr. Crow inside the training room, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Coming up just past 7 o'clock, we'll also catch up with Mr. Berg, Brandon Berg. We'll talk some baseball with him. We'll talk we'll do a local sports roundup with him as well. Shout out Team A-Bear. Picking up a silver medal yesterday morning representing the United States at the FISU World University Games. Lots to catch up on in the prep world, too. Last night, too, if you talk about just Eau Claire-wise, wrestling kind of had some history. You had North and Memorial going at it for the boys' side, but for the first time ever, too. Eau Claire North girls and Memorial girls competing against each other. So some history on the mats last night, but we'll talk about all that and more with some local sports roundup with Mr. Berg coming up a little bit later on. Also, cream of the crop. We'll hit that up. I need your picks, though. Who's your cream of the crop for this week? Make your selections throughout the program here this morning. So let's jump right into it, shall we? So we're going to talk football. We're going to talk some hoops. We're going to talk some baseball. We're going to talk some local sports, roundup, covering all the bases right now, baby. Going to hit them all up. What else is on your mind? Got something else on your mind? I'm open ears because it's Friday. It's TGIF. Let's hear what you got to say. Okay, so hit those dials. Start punching the keys on your cell phones and such. Let's take our first break, and then we'll jump right into it. Coming up after these quick words. When it comes to fresh quality meats, nobody does it better than Mike's Star Market. From hand-cut steaks and juicy burgers to premium brats and snack sticks, they have everything you need to make your next meal unforgettable. And hunters, don't forget, they are your go-to place to drop off your game to get your meat processed. Still got, depending on the areas you go hunting at, still maybe some late bow season action for the next week or so. Again, depending on the area you're at. But stop by and give Mike Star Market a visit, 2238 Heimstead Road in Eau Claire. Mike, Sarah, the entire staff there greet you with a nice hello and help you answer any questions you may have. Mike Star Market, deliberately old-fashioned to assure quality and affordability. Don't forget, they got more than just meat stuff over there, too. You got freeze-dried candy in there, a bunch of other products and such. So you always go out with a bag full of goodies from Mike's Star Market there, too. So also, if you're just I forgot to mention this in the opener here, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we got a little announcement, a little save the dates in terms of our golf outing. So, little save the date action. Can't sign up yet, but a little save the date action to put it on your calendar. So make sure you're tuning in just past 8 o'clock here this morning for that announcement. All right. So looks like quite a few of you already texting in. So I don't know if it's your again, if this is what you're picking or if this is what you want. You can make both of them, but it looks like it's a clear majority right now going for Commanders and Bills. Commanders and Bills. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. Now, whether that's actually going to happen or not, well, I'll make our pick a little bit later on and picks and predicts and such. But that's definitely the one that I would like to see, coming in or going into it. I mean, okay, I know that a big topic this week and maybe even a little bit longer has been Chiefs fatigue. I mean, I think even DP was talking about it yesterday. I've got Chiefs fatigue. A lot of people that I've talked to have Chiefs fatigue, and it's normal. Okay. I don't want the Chiefs in it. All right. And it's just straight up because yes, I'm tired of it. I'm fatigued of it. I'm jealous of it as a fan because I want it to be my team. All the above. So clearly I am not rooting for the Chiefs this weekend. I want something different. Okay. It is jealousy. It is fatigue. It's all the above. But I think this is normal. When you have a team that's been so good for a while, I mean, Patriots were the same way. A lot of us were tired about it. It's like, okay, can we get something different? And it turns into this, and I did it. I still do it. But I was more like it as maybe in my younger years. But you have a team that is so good and they win so much. Yeah, it kind of, and it's not your team. You kind of turn into it like, gosh, I can't stand that team. I can't stand that team. I think that was a lot of the animosity or, going towards maybe like a Brady and such because the guy just kept winning and he kept racking up rings. And it's like, okay, enough. It's not my team. Can we get something different then? It's the same reason when I was a kid and I didn't like Michael Jordan. It's because he beat my teams. I'm a Jordan fan now, 100%. But when I was a kid, when I was like 10 years old, 8, 9 years old, I was an Orlando Magic fan. I was Penny and Shaq. I loved the playoffs when the Bulls, when the year Jordan came back and the Magic ousted the Bulls in the playoffs. I still have it in my memory watching Nick Anderson steal the ball from Jordan. Oh, great times. And then Jordan comes back the next year and just absolutely kills him. Kills him. I mean, I remember as a kid, I was rooting for the Jazz in those last two finals. I was rooting for the Sonics. Still remember the Sports Illustrated cover. I still might have it, actually. It was Gary Payton on there. It said I think it said Mission Possible or Mission Impossible. It was leading up to, the Sonics and Bulls matchup there. But, I mean, that was the only reason is because I was tired of Jordan. I was tired of the Bulls winning all the time. So as a kid, it turned to like, I can't stand them. I don't like them. Some are different. I mean, especially when you're younger, you gravitate towards who wins the most. Definitely saw a lot of that when I was younger, still see a lot of that with the kiddos. So it kind of goes both ways. Some people become fans of a team because they just win a lot in their early stages of their fanism, right? Some, if you already got a team that you're a fan of and that other team starts to win a lot, it turns into you can't stand them. You can't stand them. So, but yeah, so that's I absolutely have Chiefs fatigue. I don't know if anybody else out there has Chiefs fatigue and such, but I definitely have it. So go Bills. Although I feel like this is going to be a game. I'm already preparing, and I know another topic for this whole week has been, the officiating when it comes to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and such. I'll be curious to see how that game is officiated because of all the talk. It is in Kansas City though too. But the one thing that I'm prepared for when it comes to this game is we're going to see both quarterbacks looking for flags. It's just going to be hands up, looking for flags, and I'm just like, come on. I know I talked a little bit about that yesterday and such, but it's like that's the one of the things I'm not looking forward to in this matchup. So, but Commanders and Eagles, looking at that game, looking at that matchup, I mean, I know Eagles are favored, and a lot of people are going to pick the Eagles and such, but I don't know if Jane Daniels could do what he did against the Lions and such. They got a shot. They got a shot to do this. Jalen Hurts a little bit dinged up. I know he's been practicing and such, but I think that could potentially be a pretty good. I think both these games could be really good. I know a lot of focus is on that Chiefs and Bills one being a close one, but I honestly feel like both these games could be very, very good. I'm excited for both. But yeah, I definitely want Buffalo and Commanders. If I could pick who I want, I'm picking those two. I'm picking those two. How about you? What do you want to see, and what do you think we will see after these games on Sunday for the conference championships? Let me know. Hit me up. Okay. So we'll get those picks throughout the morning here, but definitely it is Commanders and Bills as the popular picks out there. So as Brandon's mom says, Morning Casper, and Brandon, my heart says Commanders and Bills. I pick Eagles, and staying with Bills, I think the Chiefs' luck runs out. All right, let's switch gears here just for a little bit to the Bucks. Bucks last night. So I mean, it's been a very interesting few days here for the Bucks in terms of travel. They went down to New Orleans a couple nights ago. Supposed to be playing against the Pelicans. That game ended up getting postponed because of the weather that's going on down there with all the snow and such. So Milwaukee was stuck down there for a little bit, not able to leave finally till late yesterday. The landing in Milwaukee are at around 5, and the game last night was supposed to start at 6:30, so they pushed it back an hour. Still got it in though. I mean, leaving right from the airport, go into the arena, get a little warm up in, and hit the court. And I mean, in the first half of the first quarter, especially, you could kind of tell the Bucks were a team that was, maybe they haven't done a whole lot in the last couple of days, a little rusty and such, but they picked it back up and they cruised to a victory over the Miami Heat. Head coach Doc Rivers, impressed with his team last night, calling it a very professional win, considering everything that they've, had to, with the traveling stuff and such. Damian Lillard also saying after the game last night, as a leader of a team, you got to let the team know off the rip, we're not doing that. We're not having excuses. I don't care about the flight. I don't care that we've been in a hotel for 3 days. You got to take that away from the team as a leader. And then Giannis, I think, putting everything in perspective, which I think a lot of fans, this is again another reason why a lot of fans gravitate towards the Greek Freak. This is what Giannis had to say after the game, talking about the whole traveling situation and such. Throughout the day, I was just trying to stay locked in. This is not the toughest conditions that I've played basketball. The only difference is that we had to take a flight. At the end of the day, if you call this adversity, I think the team responded very well facing this adversity, that we had to take a flight for 2 hours before the game. At the end of the day, we still woke up in a five-star hotel, had breakfast, sit down as a team, talked as a team while we're waiting for the bus. We had a pretty nice bus ride. We went to our plane, charter plane, private plane. Everybody has their own seat. You can order some food on the plane, get some fruit if you want. They have drinks too. After that, your cars are warm right in front of the plane waiting for you. You get in your car and you get to the arena in like 15 minutes. And after that, you do your routine and you get ready for the game. For me, those conditions are not that bad. I've been in way worse conditions in my life. But if you want to call this adversity, I'm very happy and proud of how the team responded. Even though we did all that, we were locked in and came in here to win. Giannis, I mean, I think if you're a fan, you're just nodding your head and saying that's my guy. That's my guy right there, putting things in perspective, just the mindset that he has. Because sure, you know, I'm sure if the Bucks would have lost that game last night, or they looked a little slow, they looked a little sluggish, I'm pretty sure we would have heard from some people, maybe some players saying, well, look at the travel issues that we had, and it affected our team. And you have Giannis here saying, I've been in way worse situations. I love the fact too that he said at the end of the day, we still stayed in a five-star hotel. We had all this, we all that. He's not looking for, I think he realized the situation and they're professional athletes, they're professional basketball players. That's not much of an adversity, but if people want to call it an adversity, okay, whatever. I mean, he's completely downplaying the situation. I just love the mentality and I love the mindset that the Greek Freak has. And when he says stuff like this and puts things in perspective, in a real world perspective, it's like, dang, you just continue to like this guy more and more. And I think from us as just general fans, it's After we're done with the program here this morning, Brandon and myself, we're going to do another episode of the Man Cave podcast, another top 5 plus. And shout out to B. This is his idea. And I want all of you to play along here too. But we're going to do top 5 sports duos of all time. The caveat to it all is we can't, so it's kind of like a draft. Brandon and I can't have the same ones. And once a player is used, they can't be used in another duo. So let's say Jerry Rice. Okay. Can't use, if you pick Jerry Rice and Joe Montana, we can't pick Jerry Rice and Steve Young. Understand? So, and we can't have the same one. So it's going to be a little bit of draft. So give me your top 5 or just one if you want, if that's fine. If you just want to do who you think the best sports duo is of all time, or if you want to do your top 5, send them on over and we'll include them in a new episode of the Man Cave podcast brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee. That'll drop later on this morning. So text those on over to us. You can text them to us, 715-830-1912, or you can leave a voicemail on the Man Cave hotline. That phone number is in the podcast description if you are a follower or subscriber to the podcast over there. So speaking of Hy-Vee, maybe you're looking for some stuff, some snacks and such to get ready for the games this weekend, or maybe you're kind of pre-planning for the big game in a couple weeks. Don't forget to head on over to Hy-Vee, grab yourself some Man Cave Light, 6-packs of Man Cave Light, and some Dad Good Burgers from the meat department. So go do that. Go grab it up. Load it up. All right. Let's we had a little bit of an issue with the YouTube feed. Sorry, Joe, it froze up, so it had to restart in that. So, and plus we don't have any audio during commercial breaks because we don't want to get in trouble for copyright stuff there, Joe. So no audio during commercial breaks. All right, let's talk a little green and gold here this morning, continuing our off-season self-scouting series, talking about the cornerbacks. Now, we've talked a little bit about coaching. We've talked a little bit about wide receivers, defensive line. Now let's talk about the cornerbacks, because, again, I believe that defensive line, wide receiver, and corners are probably the top 3 position groups that have some question marks or some big decisions to be made. Offensive line would probably be right there too. I'd probably put offensive line at 4 if I were to rank them and such. So when it comes to the corners, obviously the big question that Green Bay has to answer is, what do you do with 2-3? Jair Alexander. And it's I feel like he's gone, and I hate saying that because I do like Jair. I do like Jair. The problem is availability, and you look at the injuries for the last couple of years, and yes, he's got a bigger contract and such, and when you have that contract, you want them to be out on that field. And I know Goody said that the contract's not a hindrance to them, but again, I think if there's one thing we've all learned from GM speak, you can look no further than last year and all the praise about Aaron Jones and such, and yada, yada, yada. And, Josh Jacobs is there, and Aaron Jones is no longer there. He's not the only general manager, to say stuff like that and go against the grain or go the opposite way. But my personal feeling is I feel like he's out. I feel like he's gone. I don't know what's it like, what the talks are like, or what the feelings are like with each other, behind the scenes at 1265 Lombardi Avenue and such. So, but my gut says he's gone. So now you're at with Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine as your top 2 corners right now in the depth chart. If they keep Jair, I still think they go and get a corner in a draft. Maybe it's a day 2 guy, 3rd round or something like that. If they move on from Jair, then I think at the very latest, you got to get a corner early day 2. Maybe not necessarily first first round, if you still want to get maybe first round, depending on what you do in free agency, if you get a defensive lineman, defensive end, or something like that. So, again, a lot will depend on what they do in free agency. So, I mean, it's as simple as if Jair's not there, you really, really, really need a corner. If he is there, maybe you can wait a little bit, day 2, and grab another corner. But if he's not there and it's Carrington and Keyshawn as your top 2 corners, can Green Bay, are you confident in Green Bay that they can start the season with those 2 guys? And remember the division. You're going up against good receivers, right? Just to the west of us, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Detroit, Amon St. Brown and Jameis Williams. Chicago, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore. I mean, you've got talented wide receivers in this division. I want some good corners to go up against those guys. Can Keyshawn and Carrington handle their own? It is clearly obvious Green Bay and Jeff Hafley are big fans of Keyshawn Nixon and big fans of him playing on the outside. I honestly feel like Green Bay is going to open up next year with those 2 as their top 2 corners with Keyshawn and Carrington. I think they're fine with that or satisfied with that. But I still would like to see another corner. And maybe, I don't know if Keyshawn could develop into this, latter part of his career and such, or Carrington can develop into this. But I would still like to see a corner that is, you're shut down. Like if we had, I'll just throw out some examples. If Green Bay had a Patrick Surtain type of corner, or one of those guys, it makes life easier as a D coordinator and such. It doesn't mean you need one of those corners, to be a Super Bowl champ or anything like that. But it would make things a whole lot easier and allow you to be a little bit more flexible, maybe a little bit more creative on the defensive side and such. If you got that corner, it's like, okay, we're going up against Justin Jefferson, so and so. You got him all day, and then we're not going to worry about you. This is your opportunity to go mano a mano, 1-on-1, take care of business, and it's going to open up things for us to do some other stuff. It's always a luxury as a defensive coordinator, a defense to have that type of corner. So I wouldn't mind that. Let's be real. I wouldn't mind it. Or, do they look at replacing Javon Bullard as a slot corner? Is that a possibility? Is that something that they maybe look into the draft or free agency? Because slot corners, nickel corners I would count them as a starter. Base defense, nickel defenses, I think are a little bit more base than just your typical base defense of just 2 corners out there. And I know Javon Bullard's a second year or a second round draft pick and entering his second year. So maybe they give him a little bit more, say what you want about Bullard. He was up and down at times in coverage. I think he's better suited probably as a nickel than he is as a safety. I think, if I'd rather have Evan Williams back there right now than Xavier McKinney. Or Evan Williams with Xavier McKinney, excuse me. I'd rather have Evan Williams with Xavier McKinney back there. So, if your top 3 corners are Carrington, Keyshawn, and Javon Bullard playing the nickel role, and it's not bad, but you probably for sure want some more depth over there. Because Stokes ain't coming back. We know, we don't know about Jair, and that's kind of the big domino to fall there. But if he's gone, you're probably looking at, okay, we're going to need a couple more corners for depth purposes. I don't know. Kalen King, I think there was a lot of intrigue with him last year in the draft process. The Packers got him really late 7th rounder. And I mean, the whole Bill Belichick even mentioned it on Pat McAfee's draft show. He's like, that's not a 7th rounder, or, there was some talk he could have actually been a 1st rounder the year before and such. So I think there's intrigue surrounding him. Could he develop in this? Maybe like a Carrington Valentine was a late round pick. I don't want to put all my eggs in that basket though, and just hope it happens. So I do think, yeah, you at least probably at least bare minimum are going to need 2 corners this offseason. And maybe one of them is another nickel corner, another slot type corner, a guy that can line up in the middle, a speedier guy. Maybe not necessarily the biggest guy out there, not a 6'3" corner, 6'2" corner. 5'11", 6 foot, somewhere around there, that can hang with these speedy receivers that sometimes line up in the slot. I wouldn't mind another one of those, even if you go in with Javon Bullard manning that spot right away. Have some depth there, have some backup there, because the one thing that we saw too with this defense is that if there was an injury, it really shuffled things around in that secondary. If Evan Williams was out, Bullard moves back to safety, Keyshawn moves back to the slot corner. It was just trying to put guys at different positions. And I think if you can get to a depth, a point where you have depth, you're not moving guys around so much at different positions. Okay, Javon Bullard can't play. He can't play. He's out. Well, we got another nickel corner there. We don't have to move Nixon back over there, and then we got to find another outside corner to go play out there. And vice versa with a lot of that stuff. So I think if they could just build up the depth at that position, so they're not shuffling around their defensive backs as much as they had to this year, whether it was Evan Williams missing time or Javon Bullard missing time or Jair Alexander missing time. Get that depth back up there so you're not doing it. I think will be beneficial for this ball club and beneficial for Jeff Hafley. Remember, Jeff Hafley is a defensive backs coach by trade. That's where he's made his mark. That's how he got, cut his teeth in the coaching ranks and such. But the big decision to wrap it all up is 100% what do they do with Jair? I feel like it's bye-bye Jair. I feel like it's bye-bye Jair. It's bye-bye Eric Stokes. They're going to open up the season with Keyshawn and Carrington as your top 2 outsides, but they will grab at least, I think, 2 corners in the draft. If they don't make a move into free agency, I think it's at least 2 corners in the draft. And I wouldn't mind if one of them is kind of that nickel slot corner, just to get a little bit more depth. If you want to go in with Bullard as your top nickel corner, fine. But have some depth behind it too, so you're not shuffling around so many other guys out there. All right. I got a couple of those top 5s over there. I'm going to save those. Jeremy, thank you for that. I'll save it for Brandon when he comes in so I can share it with him over there too. So I will tell you a little bit of my strategy here. I tried to get, and I don't know how it all works out because we're doing it via the draft here. My goal is to try to get one that represents each sport. That's my goal. But we'll see how it works via the draft and that. Plus, I might steal some of your ideas if I missed one. I've got a little sticky note here with quite a few of them on there, but I might steal one of them from you, Jeremy, too. I'm just saying. There's one on there. All right, keep your picks coming. Appreciate that. Jeremy. Steve says Valentine has potential, but I'm not okay with Nixon as our other starting corner. If we let Jair walk, he has steadily regressed since he signed his big contract. He's never been as good as defense and special teams anyway. That's why if Jair walks, I think we need a cornerback, one of our top free agency priorities this offseason. Evan going a little bit of a different route. He's got the graft here. You're right. I would agree. Like, I think Keyshawn, Evan, I agree with you. I think Keyshawn quietly did have a solid defensive season. I'll respectfully disagree, Steve, with the regression on the defensive side. Because if you look at some of the numbers and such, I thought he quietly had a solid defensive performance. And Evan, thank you for sending this graph from Pro Football Focus. Cornerback man coverage, passer rating allowed, yards allowed per coverage snap. Keyshawn is in the same category as Marlon Humphrey and Sauce Gardner. So, I mean, that's pretty exclusive company right there when you talk about cornerback man coverage. Factoring in yards allowed per snap, or yards allowed per cover snap, and passer rating allowed, he's in the same stratosphere, according to Pro Football Focus, as Marlon Humphrey and Sauce Gardner. It's those three. Carrington's right in the middle. I mean, if you're looking at this graph, he's like right in the middle. Appreciate you, Evan, circling around those names over there too. And Jair is actually towards the bottom. I mean, him and Eric Stokes are right there. Not in the area that you want to be. That's an interesting graph. So thank you for sending that over. But I do think Keyshawn had a quietly solid defensive season. And at this point, I trust Jeff Hafley. I trust Jeff Hafley and the decisions that he wants to do with that group. All right, we'll get back to that. Keep your comments coming, though. We'll get back to some more messages coming up here in a little bit. We'll finish up with Morgs. Good morning, Morgs.
How you feeling today?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you making your bowl picks early and often?
Later on.
Okay.
I know who I want, but it's not necessarily what I'm picking, maybe.
Okay.
I want Commanders and Bills.
Most people do, I think. Who do you know that's going, besides the guy that happened to be covered head to toe in KC gear last weekend when I was having a beer at the bar? Who do you know that's actually on board? And it's not haters going to hate because it would be, the third time for them. It's not that. It's just kind of wanting to see a different shakeup. Who do you know that's honestly rooting for Kansas City?
Hudson.
Yeah?
Yeah, unfortunately.
So, Mahomes fan or just?
I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Isn't it weird, though? Think back to your own childhood. There is the propensity to land shot to teams for no reason. Like, I remember in 6th grade, there was this huge, completely, hard to describe obsession with the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, probably the starter jackets.
Yeah. Like, it was totally random and sudden, and nobody could really explain it, but all of a sudden, everybody had Miami Dolphins gear in 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
How does that happen?
I think it's
a merch push.
It's kind of like the Hornets jacket. Everybody had a Hornets, starter
Charlotte.
jacket. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit look good, play good.
Is that how that goes?
Yeah. See, I when I was a kid growing up, I thought the lamest nickname I ever got was Dan Marino.
Oh, that makes sense. I see. Yeah, but kids are like that,
Yeah.
So now the day after Super Bowl should be a national holiday. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, but I can't take it off.
It's literally, it's like your Super Bowl. You have to be here to talk about it.
Yeah.
But if we were going to add an extra holiday to the calendar year, do you think that's the next logical one?
Probably. Or move it to a Saturday.
Okay, between those two options, what do you like? I like moving it to a Saturday. Better. I think a Saturday.
I can't have the day off on Monday.
Yeah, well, and having a big game on a Saturday is easy for a lot of people because that Sunday rollover, Bloody Sunday,
move it over.
No
to
big
Saturday.
Deal. I think so too. And probably, do you ever talk to players or have any finger on the pulse of what day they like playing? Because it used to be Sunday was football, but now you have Monday night games, and now there's been basically games every night of the week.
Most of the players don't like Thursdays, but I heard George Kittle once say he likes Thursdays because then they get an extra break. Like it's a couple days after, a little bit more of a mini bye week.
So just for like the recovery angle.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so what do you think the least favorite day to play is?
I still think it's Thursday.
Do you?
On a short week, yeah.
Do you, as a player, think that the late night schedule they prefer, or would they rather get the game done early? Because I love a noon kick.
Early, because I think from what I've heard in that, then you're not sitting around waiting. You're not waiting all night for Sunday night.
If you're not kicking off till 7, even if you get to the field a couple hours early, you're up in the morning, you're waiting. And if it's a high pressure game, I'm sure there are nerves involved.
You just want to get to the game right away instead of sitting around and waiting.
And start playing.
Exactly.
Do you have a spread set up for the party, or is that not happening yet?
I got a couple weeks, to think about it. So,
okay. But you made your call, Commanders, Bills.
That's who I want. Is that what I'm picking?
I think that's easy to get behind.
I do. All right, thanks, Morgs.
Thank you.
2 more hours to go. We'll be back after these news updates.
15 without waivers. And those states are Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, Ohio, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. And that's some Ag News here on Sports Talk 105.1. I'm Jill Welke.
For over 50 years, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine has been Western Wisconsin's trusted leader in orthopedic care. Whether you're facing bone and joint pain, sports injuries, or complex spine issues, their expert team is dedicated to helping you live pain-free. Now with their new state-of-the-art facility in Rice Lake, you can enjoy clinic visits, advanced imaging, and personalized physical therapy all under one roof. Visit cvosm.com to get back to doing what you love pain-free. Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, where high-quality care meets hometown commitment.
Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Casper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Casper Show.
Second hour kicking off right now on this Friday morning of January 24th. Coming up in a little bit, we'll do some local sports roundup with Brandon. We mentioned it, but Eau Claire's Team A-Bear representing Team USA getting silver in curling just yesterday morning. Also some history made with wrestling with Memorial and North going at it, but it was first time North and Memorial girls teams going against each other in a duel too. So cool event or cool stuff going on last night, and a lot more coming up on the docket. So we'll do some local sports roundup with Brandon, but also talk some baseball and get back to more football. Give me your picks on who you think is going to the Super Bowl. You can text those on over or comment on the video streams. We begin this hour like we normally do every Friday morning, talking with our doc.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. On the Dan Casper Show.
He is Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. Austin, how are we doing, bud?
We're doing, a little sore mentally from the loss of all of my favorite teams, but other than that, I'm recovering.
Welcome to the club, man. So,
yeah, a lot of us in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So, I want to start off with the Eagles here and Jalen Hurts, Austin. So last week against the Rams, we saw Jalen Hurts take a nasty hit, and it looked like he suffered a knee injury, and looked like he had a brace on when he went back out there. And I was watching a little practice video yesterday, and a lot of people saying he's still favoring that knee out there. Any idea on the potentials? Is it maybe another MCL? We've talked about MCLs, how many times this year. Any idea on some possible issues it could be that he's dealing with that knee injury?
Yeah, so I saw the clip. Well, I was actually watching the game live and they replayed it. You saw it was his leg. I mean, at first I thought it was his ankle because that was actually kind of like rolled up underneath him as well. But obviously, if the foot's planted and there's twisting, the force can either go through the ankle or the knee. In this case, clearly it went through the knee. So MCL, based on the mechanism, will look like it would be the likely ligament that would be involved. And I saw yesterday a couple clips of him running around and people saying he's favoring it. I mean, it certainly didn't look like he was hobbling.
Right.
I mean, maybe a little bit. It didn't. I think he'll be okay. Will he have maybe a little bit of, either trepidation or hesitation when he's throwing? Maybe a little bit, or scrambling, maybe. But he was able to finish that game. I suspect he'll be okay. So, MCL, which is what I suspect it is, and that's what looks like the kind of brace he's wearing. I'm guessing he'll be back and performing at a pretty high level.
It'll be interesting. Will he kind of be limited in the running game with it, because that's something that the Eagles do a lot with him. Whether it's a read option with Saquon, could he be limited in that aspect with that part of his game?
The old tush push too.
Yeah.
I think it could. Again, I mean, they'll run them through warmups and see what they think. I mean, they may adjust their play calling based on that. But again, seeing how he was moving yesterday in the clips I saw, it certainly didn't look like it was that noticeable to me. And so my suspicion is that he'll be pretty close to 100%. But I mean, if the MCL is bothering him, and it's a difference in him being able to juke or not, I mean, that is the difference, right? I mean, those guys, they don't want him running down the field and taking hard hits. I mean, if he's not able to move and be mobile and elusive, they may decide, not because they don't think he could get yards, but they just don't want to put him in jeopardy out there with a leg that just can't kind of do the things it needs to do to keep him safe. So it is possible that they adjust some of the play calling based on those things, but at the end of the day, that's kind of how I would expect it to go down.
So in the Saturday night game between the Commanders and the Lions, the Commanders lost one of their offensive linemen, Sam Cosby, to a torn ACL. And if anybody remembers the video, I mean, it looked like he got rolled up on from behind and, kind of bent. Knee went somewhere where it wasn't supposed to go. So, I mean, ACL injured. This might be kind of a dumb question, Austin, but the way you tear your ACL, because we see it that way, and we could tell it's like, okay, that's a bad knee injury. And sometimes we see knee injuries like, really, the guy tore his ACL. Is there, how you tear it, the way it tears? Could there be different approaches to recovery, or every tear is the same? I guess is what I'm asking. Is that true?
No, I mean, so there's absolutely different tears. Now, the mechanism isn't the only factor. Contact ACLs tend to have more additional injuries, though, often MCL along with it, because it's usually like that. So, for the Vikings, we lost our left tackle, Darisaw, to a contact one as well. A guy rolled up on him, almost the same exact image. The guy hits and rolls, the leg goes like forward and in. And that puts a lot of stress on the ACL and then also the MCL. So a lot of times those are combo ligament injuries. Now the MCL usually would heal in on its own. You don't have to do anything with it, but it depends on what the injury pattern is. But there tends to be more kind of energy or violence that goes through the knee with a contact one. But there are plenty of non-contact ones that can be really nasty as well. So I'd say on average, the contact ones are a little bit worse. But at the end of the day, I mean, even a non-contact one, it doesn't look that bad. But if you were to take like a slow motion X-ray, which obviously we can't do, but a slow motion X-ray and see what actually happens to the knee, even a non-contact ACL, it is an incredibly violent injury. So the bones shift and move in a very, very significant way. And so, I mean, we're talking like 1.5 inches, 2 inches, the bone shifts. And so people, I think I've said this in the past, but I always show in their MRI, I show the patient, say, look, this is the bone bruise. Like those two bruises are from the bones hitting each other, and they're like opposite sides of the knee. So the knee shifts like almost all the way apart. And so with that, there's a lot of potential for injury to the meniscus, the cartilage surfaces, and also other ligaments as well. So I guess the answer is kind of yes, kind of no. So, I mean, contact ones are a different beast. It doesn't necessarily mean it's worse. I'd say on average, those tend to be a little bit more severe.
Interesting. Moving over to the NBA, I don't know if you saw this quote from Commissioner Adam Silver, but obviously an expert in injuries, Adam Silver here. So, but he was asked about the uptick in NBA injuries, and this is what he had to say, and I want to get your reaction. I think that there's sometimes too much of a focus on skill. It's not that they're not working as hard. In some cases, I think they're often too hard and need to be playing more sports at once. We think some of the injuries that our young players are experiencing are overuse injuries, not because they're being too physical, but it's from the repetition of certain things. And that's why I think NBA players from the 80s and 90s, those players in the league also happen to be in the best in every other sport in their school as children, because they play different sports depending on the season. End quote. What are your thoughts? You agree? Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I think we've talked about this in the past, and I'll reiterate it. I mean, there have been several studies that have looked at athletes going to a single sport. It does not increase the likelihood of them being an elite athlete. In fact, if they do it at a younger age, it decreases the likelihood they're an elite athlete. I think cross-training between sports is phenomenal. I think it's good for physical skills. I think it's good for the body. It trains different muscles. It stresses different parts of the body. So I am a huge, huge advocate. So I get asked that question pretty frequently by patients or patients' parents, and I am universal saying, look, stick with as many sports you can as long as you can. Now, if your kid hates it and they don't want to do it, okay, fine. But then I think getting a break from their number one sport and doing something else, whether it's just working out in the gym or doing other kind of cross-training activities is better than sticking with one sport year-round. So I think when you get these athletes that are doing the same thing over and over and over and over, it does set you up for an increase in overuse injuries or acute injuries that are related to overuse injuries as well. So, yeah, I would stand by that statement completely. So, I mean, when I get asked that question, like I said, I'm pretty universal on it. Like, stick with multiple sports if you can. It's good for the kids in pretty much every sense of the term, in my opinion.
Because, I mean, for a lot of times, too, you'd think certain sports could actually help develop skills in another sport, right? Whether it's like, basketball, you're working on your footwork. Maybe that transitions if you're a wide receiver or playing tennis or something like that. There's different aspects that could actually help you in those other sports.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I attribute a lot of my success in the football field to wrestling. I mean, learning balance, leverage. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of crossover between sports that you can learn skills that translate. And then, working with different coaches who have different perspectives, different teammates. I mean, again, there's a lot of mental and physical reasons that doing more than one sport makes sense. So yeah, I think you and I are on the same page there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. 'Cause I think, wasn't it like Ohio? I remember a couple of years ago, wasn't it like Ohio State's? It was a weird number, like in the 90%, like a lot of their recruits were 3-sport athletes or something like that.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember if it was Ohio State, but I do remember that coming out. One of the coaches was talking about that, how they intentionally go after 3-sport athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these guys do it, but it is more and more. And I think it depends on kind of where you're at. We are a little bit sheltered in this part of the country. I have a good friend who he's an orthopedic surgeon down in Dallas, and in the suburbs in Dallas. I mean, he was telling me by 7th and 8th grade, if you're not like specialized in your sport, you're probably not going to be playing varsity. So in 7th grade, they have to kind of pick a sport. And he's not a fan of it, but he's like, what do you do? I mean, that's just the way it is. The coach is like, well, if you're not committed to this team, we're just not sure if we're going to commit to you. I mean, it's pathologic is what it is. I mean, I think what needs to happen is that adults need to be adults and understand this is not about them. It's about the kids. But that's a whole separate topic. But yeah, I mean, it's just, youth sports are phenomenal. It's great. So many things that you learn, becoming an adult, being a young man or woman, leadership skills, all work ethic. I mean, the list goes on, and the physical things as well. And so, I mean, that's what sports are really about. And so to be this thing where it's like, every high school athlete needs to be trying to train to be D1, it's just not realistic, and it's just not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, a bit of a tangent there, but I mean, I think that's kind of the way we should approach it.
Yeah, I think you and me need to have a beer, and we're both on the same page right there, man, and just and then chat
All
about
the
that. So this is just kind of a general question to kind of wrap things up here, Austin. So, when the season's over with, obviously with football and such right now, we see a lot of these players now going through surgery. Sometimes it's a couple of surgeries and such. So are a lot of those surgeries the basic that we hear from fans, just the basic term cleanup surgeries that, are they serious? I mean, obviously there was something that they were dealing with throughout the season and such, but it's almost like clockwork. After the season's over with your favorite team, then you find out a couple guys are actually having surgery, and the whole quote, well, they'll be ready for preseason or training camp and such. Is it just that quote unquote cleanup procedures for a lot of those guys?
It can be, yeah. I mean, I'd say that's fairly common. There are more significant ones as well. So, I mean, just for example, shoulder instability. So we have a lot of athletes that will have unstable shoulders, and they're able to kind of limp through the season. You'll often see those guys playing with those shoulder harnesses on. So whenever you see a football player with a strap, on their biceps area going underneath the shoulder pad, that's a labral tear for sure. And they're trying to support the shoulder. Often those guys will get to the end of the season. I remember my time at University of Wisconsin, University of Virginia. I mean, literally the football season ends, and the next week we do like 5 or 6 shoulder labral repairs because those guys were kind of getting through the season. So those are more significant injuries. They're not just cleanups, but there are plenty of those where it's like a small meniscus tear or a little bit of, a loose piece in the ankle. You're scoping and cleaning up, and just kind of maintenance work, if you will, because obviously those guys are putting their bodies through the ringer every season. So it's a bit of both, but you are absolutely correct. I mean, a huge number of athletes that are getting procedures done right as the season ends and trying to get that stuff taken care of, get their body optimized in a return for the season. And it's kind of like, it's the dead time for them, relatively speaking, and that's when they need to kind of recover. And so that's when they have those surgeries done. Now, of course, there are some injuries that you just can't. You tear your ACL, you don't wait till the offseason, you get done right away. So there are some that's just like, we need to get it done. In the longer the recovery, sometimes guys will elect to do that in season as well. So, but there are times where that can create some controversy. If you remember a couple of years ago, there was a lawsuit between, I think it was a Giants player who ended up having shoulder labral repair in
That's
season.
right. Yeah.
And there was a discrepancy with like your team doctor. So my guess is the team doctor was saying, look, we can get through the season and have it done in the off season. He saw another doctor, said, let's do it now. And it ended up, I don't know where that ended up happening, but it caught quite a bit of attention. I'm not sure where that lawsuit ended up. But yeah, I mean, there are guys who are just fighting through the season with the injuries they have, and sometimes they can't make it, sometimes they can.
That's you mentioned it. I remember it was just a few weeks ago. Zadarius Smith, because apparently he still holds animosity towards Green Bay, and he mentioned, a lot of it came from his back issues his final year there, where he had surgery, and then it was something like, it seemed like miscommunication between their team doctors and his doctor and such. So there's some animosity towards that a little bit. Then I was like, okay, is that kind of what's going on with Jair here a little bit too? He's getting one opinion. Doctors on the team maybe want something different. It just same vibes. It kind of felt like too.
Well, there's definitely times where you don't want that many cooks in the kitchen, but there are. I mean, I think the agents unfortunately insert themselves into this as well, where they'll have opinions or get second and third and fourth opinions. And I mean, even on you're going to 4 world-renowned orthopedic surgeons, you're gonna get slightly different opinions. Who's right? And then the football team may say, look, we agree with the doctor that says you can go back a little sooner. The players like, no, another doctor says I need to be out a little bit longer. And everyone has different short and long-term strategies. The football team, especially if they're making a push to the playoffs, may say, look, we're hoping to get you back on the field. And the player's like, well, geez, I have my whole career I need to think about. So, I mean, and there are times where goals aren't perfectly aligned. Exactly that scenario where an athlete may be saying, look, I mean, maybe I can play, but I don't want to risk it. And the team may say, look, this doctor says you're healthy to play, and we want you back out there. So yeah, it can create, a lot of, I mean, sometimes animosity in real bad blood, right? As Jair is talking about, and who knows, maybe Jair's having that same issue with his PCL injury. But it does create, I mean, to put it bluntly, I mean, it's basically a form of work comp injury. And there's plenty of people out there who've probably been through that. And work comp is never fun either, because it creates divergent interest between the patient and the company. And so in this case, the patient is an athlete and the company is the football team. But we see that day in and day out. People tear their rotator cuff working in a steel factory. And then, the patient saying, I can't get back. The steel factory saying, this guy needs to come back to work. And so we deal with this in a day in, day out in a different context, but in reality, it's kind of the same thing. So yeah, it can be a sticky situation, but you hope in the end everyone can come together, and especially when you have a player like Jair that I think the team probably values and wants back. You hope you can find middle ground that works for everybody.
Absolutely. All right, who you got? Who do you want to see win this weekend, and who do you think is going to win this weekend if it's different?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely firmly in the haters of the Chiefs camp. So I want the Bills. Josh Allen's pretty electric. It just, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it just does feel like the Chiefs get every dang call. And
yes.
I mean, some of those flops by Mahomes, just it's frustrating. So I'm pulling for the Bills, but man, the Chiefs are just good. I mean, they win games and they find a way to win games. So, but who I want to win is Bills. And I think they can. So actually, I think they can. I think they will. NFC side, I mean, the Commanders are a great story. The Eagles, I think, are the better team, top to bottom. So I think I'll go with the Eagles. So we'll see probably Eagles-Bills Super Bowl is my guess.
All right, I like it, man. Hey, we appreciate the time as always, buddy. Good stuff. We'll catch up with you again next week, man, and start thinking about Super Bowl picks here too next couple weeks. So
absolutely,
man.
Always something around the corner. So you have a good weekend.
You too, buddy. There you go, Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Really quick break, and we'll get to our guy, Mr. Brandon Berg. We got lots to get to here with Brandon. We'll be back here in just a couple minutes. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, before Brandon came in here, after we shut the mics off, we're going to be doing another episode of the podcast top five sports duos, right? We're doing sports
Yes.
duos. Okay.
Yeah, and this is very open-ended because I've got this in the form. I was thinking about this in the form of a draft.
Yep.
Yeah, because
That's what we're doing, and I've got not showing you, but that's a quick look at my list. Right
okay.
here, so.
But
So I've told people in the first hour they got to text me their top fives just to we'll
just
feature
duos.
them and over
And
there. So
this is open-ended on purpose. It could be teammates, it could be rivals, it could be just two people or things that go together. Like I left this open-ended on purpose because I kind of want to see how people think with this.
All right.
Because I've got a little bit of a lot of different things when it comes to this.
Okay. All right. So we got a couple people that sent theirs on over, so we'll make sure we'll put those on the pod over there. So, and again, as the rules are, a player can't be used twice.
Correct.
So the example I used is, say Brandon picks Montana and Rice. I can't say Young and Rice for another
Correct.
one. So
Correct.
Yep. And we can't have the same duo. So
right.
That'll be fun. It'll be fun. I have a strategy, but we'll see if it works out.
I just have a list of people, and it's going to be whatever I'm feeling.
Yeah. Are we going to do the infamous rock, paper, scissors for first pick?
I think so. I've gotten better at this though as we went along. I was in a pretty bad down stretch for a while there.
You were, but I don't know if I want the first pick. Actually, I do. So we'll see. So that's coming up. We'll do that after we get off the air, and it'll be up in a podcast form. Let's do some local sports roundup, brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center here. First up, I know I mentioned it already a couple times, but again, shout out to Eau Claire Curling Club's Team Abear. Earned a silver medal yesterday representing the United States in the FISU World University Games. So a big tip of the cap and congrats to them. I want to start it off, though, too, with wrestling. And I know it's not necessarily in your neck of the woods, but it's in the same conference, Big Rivers Conference. But last night, it's always a big event when it's Memorial and North.
Right.
Wrestling going at it, but a little history with it, too, because, well, you had girls' teams competing against each other for the first time, too.
The first Big Rivers duel in conference history. And that's pretty cool that, it was two, rival schools like that with Memorial and North picking up the win. And obviously, in the early, we're still 3-4 years, I forget what it is, into, kind of girls wrestling being officially sanctioned sport in Wisconsin. And, obviously we've talked a lot about kind of Eau Claire North and the numbers they've had, but seeing Memorial have it grow too. And it's funny that this comes up today because even yesterday I was just kind of looking at the postseason for wrestling, just kind of, and for girls wrestling, and things are a little bit different this year, where in the past you really didn't have much in the way of like regionals. And the sectionals for girls were held at the same location as the boys at the same time, but that's not the case this year. It's separate. Like you're going to have girls regionals and sectionals on the Friday, basically the day before boys regionals and sectionals, because it's grown so much. And that's a great sign that you have to have it, that they have, that you have your own kind of, separate one, because there's just enough there that you need that, you need that mat space, you need that time because it's grown so much.
Right.
And, Eau Claire North is kind of at the forefront of that when we've seen just the amount of numbers that they've had and how they've been able to kind of really spark interest in girls wrestling there. I mean, hosting the Eau Claire North Girls Husky Invite the last, here in recent years has been a big step for that too. But it's just really cool to see how quickly it's taken off. Because when it first started, I mean, it was kind of coming out of COVID and you just weren't sure. I mean, a lot of sports were kind of struggling with numbers at that point, but, you would see teams that had, girls wrestlers on the team, they were just, competing against guys in whatever weight class they're in. But, to see it kind of grow as much as it has in such a short period of time is really cool.
Absolutely. And I know, I mean, we talk about wrestling quite a bit was it Chi High invite? Was it last week or so?
Chi had there.
Is the Cadet one? Did that already just come through?
Yeah, Cadet was earlier this month, and they had enough for a separate girls tournament, and I mean they had a lot of action and a lot of weight classes there. So, and you had teams coming from all over the state for it.
Right.
I mean, you had teams coming, you had from Anasha and long ways away. I mean, right now we're still kind of relatively early in that, where you've got teams that'll travel a long way for these girls tournaments because they're growing, but it's still a matter of like when you can get in one, you take it, because I mean, at that stage of the game, you're just looking for competition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like with anything, you just want, especially if you've got maybe a younger team or you've got athletes that are newer to the sport. I mean, there's no substitute for mat time. You can practice all you want in the wrestling room, but there's no substitute for going out there and going up against somebody else that's not a teammate of yours.
Let's talk a little hoops here, basketball wise. Start with the boy side of things. I know, was it last week too? We had Memorial North and a BRC game. Was that last Friday?
I think it was Tuesday. Was that Tuesday?
Or Tuesday. It was Tuesday.
It was, because
Yes.
that was kind of one of the rare games going on.
Yeah, it was Tuesday. I remember that because we had pictures for basketball, and a lot of the kids were going to go to that game. So that's right. So that was Tuesday. Memorial picked up the win and such. But is it still, when you look at the BRC, Memorial up there?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, Memorial's got a 2-game lead up on Hudson. And they kind of had a bit, I don't want to say a hiccup, but I mean, they were playing some tough teams over the holiday break and dropped a couple games, but I mean, they're right back to where they've been. So, and wow. And I guess I can bring this up because I got a text while on air. This is kind of relevant to,
is this breaking news?
It kind of is.
Okay.
And literally talking about Memorial, tonight's boys basketball game at Chippewa Falls is postponed. There's some illness in the Chippewa Falls team, so it's got to get moved to Monday.
Okay.
And that game is at Chi High.
All right. So yeah, breaking news.
So there you go. If you had the Chi High and the Memorial boys and girls both playing tonight, the boys game was going to be at Chippewa. It's got postponed to Monday due to illness. The girls game is still on, I believe, for tonight at Memorial. So
all right, you heard it here first.
Jeez,
look at you in the breaking news business right there.
But yeah, so. Memorial. I mean, they've
you got to phrase it this way next time. Sources tell me.
Sources, yeah, sources.
you got to do the Adam Schefter or Ian.
I guess.
Shams, so.
But
all right.
yeah, Memorial's 11-3 right now. I mean, they're. And apparently that source is listening because there's a follow-up there too. It was Chippewa Falls Athletic Director Mike Thompson. So hi, Mike.
You can't reveal your source, man.
I mean,
that's like the rule number one of journalism, isn't it?
No. I mean, but yeah.
Fun.
So that's getting moved. But yeah, Memorial up top of the Big Rivers. They're 7-0 right now. I mean, they're in good shape. They're in good shape right now as we're going to start getting into the second half of the conference season. But Hudson, Rice Lake kind of hanging out up there too. Rice Lake, I mentioned River Falls, but yeah, and the boys side, the Memorial's just doing a really good job of just taking care of business. I mean, they've picked up some big wins in recent week. You remember mentioned the win over North on Tuesday, and that's one that's, it doesn't matter the sport. When Memorial and North get together, it's a rivalry, but going back a few weeks, beating Rice Lake, picking up wins over Hudson, like just doing a good job of kind of getting some separation, giving themselves a little wiggle room there. But I mean, also the thing that to remember, and now as we hit kind of the latter half of January, early February, this is something we're going to be talking about a lot more, is just the importance for seeding when it comes to postseason. Yeah,
we're getting to that point.
We are. I mean, once you get into early February, because of the way the calendar falls this year, the tourneys are, and just it's this way with all high school sports, is everything's just seems a little later than it usually is. This year, like Boys State is after St. Patrick's Day, which usually it seems like it's right around that. That's just how the calendar fell. But this year it's a little bit later than that. But yeah, on the girls' side, it's kind of a similar story where, you've got Eau Claire Memorial, doing really well, kind of holding court.
Pun intended.
Holding court at the top of the conference with Rice Lake, Menominee, and Hudson all a couple games back. The Old Abe girls are 13-1. I mean, they're state ranked. Both teams are, but and they've got mentioned tonight they play Chi High. So that one will take place tonight. But yeah, I mean, another situation where Memorial team that was really good last year for Coach Brandon Fanning, and they're just kind of carrying that over. And the last few years they've really kind of emerged as that a team to beat in the conference, and that's a team that right now is as long as it keeps knocking down wins is going to set itself up for a good seed. When we get to the postseason, after some big games coming up, we'll kind of see how that develops. But yeah, that's coming up here in a couple weeks. I'm sure that's something when those brackets break, right. We'll talk a lot about that.
I know you were watching a little hockey last night
I was.
As well. River Falls did take down Chi High 5-2 over there. How's the BRC and the rest of the local hockey scene kind of shaping up right now?
Big Rivers is, the way the Big Rivers is many years where it's very competitive top to bottom. You've got Hudson at the top of the conference. I believe they're still unbeaten in league play right now. I mean, State ranked, they picked up a 7-0 win over Menominee last night. Take it back. They do have a loss in conference play. They're tied with New Richmond, who New Richmond knocked off Eau Claire Memorial last night. So those two teams are tied at the top. Memorial's a couple games back. River Falls, who you mentioned beat Chippewa Falls, has had a really good year so far. That's a team in Division II you're going to have to keep an eye on when the postseason comes. I mean, over the years, we've seen so many Division II teams that have been able to benefit from playing in a team, in a conference that not only has several Division I teams, but has several excellent big, Division I teams over the years. New Richmond's won a state championship. I believe they're up to Division I this year, but River Falls, Rice Lake, and Menominee have all made trips to state, despite the fact that they haven't exactly had sterling records, in large part because, they're playing the Hudsons and the Memorials and the Chi Highs and the Norths of the world. And when you do that, anytime you're in a conference and you're the smaller teams, you're going to benefit when it comes to the postseason. I mean, we've seen over the years with basketball, with when McDonald was a Division V school, now they're a Division IV, kind of Thorpe as well. When they won state a decade ago, it was kind of that similar boat. So I think that when push comes to shove, you get to the postseason. Those teams we mentioned, the Hudsons, New Richmonds, the Memorials, they're going to be a threat. Stevens Point looms large though in that section. Spash is awesome. I believe they're still unbeaten, top ranked team in the state. That's a team that Chippewa Falls beat last year in the sectional finals to go to state. And, it was a team that even looking at that time, you could see was a lot of sophomores and juniors. So you knew okay, this team has a chance to do something special this year. And so far they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to a little college stuff, I wanted to bring this up, and I know you wrote a piece last week or so, but Raleigh Hall.
Yes.
Raleigh Hall, former Lake Holcomb head football coach.
Yep.
Spent some time at River Falls.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was some time as a coach at River Falls, but it was also the activities director there for a while. And even after he had retired as a teacher, was still very involved there. Passed away last week. And someone that, I actually got to know a little bit because of his work in the Big Rivers, because his time coaching Holcomb was a little before my time. I mean, he wrapped up his coaching career at Holcomb when I was still in high school.
Yeah.
But I even remember being in Thorpe. I remember hearing about Holcomb and just them being a very good program. I mean, that's the time where you had Holcomb, who was doing great things. You had Flambeau. I mean, that's when Jim Leonard was at Flambeau. I mean, Jim Leonard's Flambeau teams and Raleigh Hall's Holcomb teams had some big battles over the years, including the year that Holcomb won state in 1998. That was a team they beat. That was kind of a big, landmark win for them.
I mean, not to get off tangent here, but you think about Holcomb, anybody who's driven through Lake Holcomb or Flambeau and that, and it's like, yeah, they were state champions. Like state 1998.
Yeah, and that was such
championship.
That was
the small town ones like that to have those.
Yeah,
so
and
cool.
Obviously small school football around here is still really good.
Yeah.
But that was such a crazy time for it because you had those schools. Thorpe had won state. Owen Withy. You just had. It was just it was such a time for that. And yeah, those. I mean, the Holcombs and the Flambeaus in the world, they had that run.
Yeah.
And I remember being a kid, and you heard it, at that point, obviously, since it was before social media and stuff, it was almost I bring up Jim Leonard. He was almost like an urban legend.
Yeah.
You would hear about him, but it was kind of oh, there's this guy, that's playing up in Flambeau or playing up in Tony that, and you just, that was such a point of pride when he going to Wisconsin, obviously doing all the great things he has, but yeah. And, getting to know Raleigh in his later years, I could see why he was a very successful, not just a coach, but an educator as well. He had such a way of being able to connect with people and talking with his players, being able to motivate people, and just that's what it takes to be a great, not just a great coach, but a great teacher as well. And I've heard from many different people. And I was up in Holcomb last Friday. I talked to some of his former assistant coaches, former players. Talk with Mike Thompson, who got to know him through his work in the Big Rivers, with Mike being an activities director, and Raleigh, even after he'd kind of stepped away from that role, still, he was doing a lot with the Big Rivers, helping out with some of their historical stuff and things like that. And, it's a loss. There's no doubt about it. This, you can never have enough good people in the world. And, Raleigh was certainly one of them.
All right. So check out Brandon's piece at Chippewa.com for sure. Really quick, before we have to take a break, Blue Gold and Stout stuff. We got some big Blue Gold basketball games coming up this weekend. The men's team is going to be taking on Stevens Point, ranked top 25. Stevens Point at the Sound and Take Center. It's also youth night. So if you want to bring the kiddos over to the Sound and Take Center for the men's game, I believe they're signing autographs after the game. The women's team then will be on the road taking on Stevens Point. You got Blue Gold Gymnastics also taking on Brandon's alma mater, number 1, Oshkosh. Number one, Oshkosh. Hockey's also in action. You got men's hockey going up against Northland College from the Stout side of things. Stout basketball is going to be taking on, while the men's team's taking on number 1 Platteville. So they will be in Menominee for that game. Women's team will be on the road taking on Platteville. Other Stouts activities or sports, I should say, coming up here too for this weekend. I know they've got hockey going to be taking on number 11th ranked Stevens Point. That is actually, I'm just double checking that's actually tonight. So, and then gymnastics is going to be taking on Hamlin University. And you got track and field. We got indoor track and field seasons going on,
Boom.
man.
We are underway.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So that's your local sports roundup, brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. Let's take a quick break, and we'll finish up the second hour. I want to switch gears here a little bit. I want to talk a little baseball with Brandon here for our final segment in the second hour. Stick around. We'll be back in just a little bit. About 12 minutes to the top of the hour here. Switching gears just a little bit before we get back to some more football talk coming up in the next hour as we get set to make our picks. Don't forget to send us your picks for who you think is going to go to the Super Bowl. Who you think is going to, who you want to go to. Might be a little bit different for some people out there. So text those on over or comment on the video streams. If that's easier for you, Join. We got to get that chat room going up on the video stream a little bit more. So
Are Lions fans quiet?
Yeah, they're pretty quiet. They're pretty quiet. So everybody should log on and see Brandon's pretty face over there.
Well, that you can always cover that up too if you want
to. All right, baseball. I want to first of all, we got the Hall of Fame class in there. I mean, I don't know who the voter was, but got to man up and reveal yourself. Okay. Let me ask you: should they reveal like the percentages of this? Like, I feel like the arguments would go away.
They would, but it's also like I also like to know that,
right?
But that just opens up this door because they don't in the NFL, correct?
They don't know,
right?
Unless, a voter like Peter King would always say, "I voted for so and so and why,"
right?
But they don't say, "Well, they got in with a
certain amount."
Yeah, yep. So
yeah, and because I like to know, because I also like to know like the people that didn't make it, like how close they are, if they're climbing, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But that's just a byproduct of this, and the whole, whether someone's unanimous or not, it was something that used to bother me. It doesn't now. The year that it really got me was like Greg Maddux. Because I'm just like, how in the world do you not think Greg Maddux is a Hall of Famer?
Right.
And I was thankful because I had a boss at the time that kind of explained to me. He's like, look, it's, baseball writers kind of tend to, have their own kind of stuff they do. And it's just, it's not to say like, oh, well, it's right that they do that. It's just like, it doesn't, like, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it's cool to say, oh, this person was unanimous. And obviously there's only been one, and that's Mariano Rivera. But like, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're still a Hall of Famer. Like, it doesn't really change anything. It's just kind of a thing. Like, you're right. In the NFL, you don't know it. Like, there's probably some people out there that, stupidly voted for certain people and like, oh, that's, for whatever reason. And you also see it with some of the Hall of Fame votes to people they do give.
Right.
Where it's like, well, it's obvious, there's times where they'll throw a vote to somebody and they know like, okay, well, this guy's obviously not going to make it, but it's recognition for, a good career they had and that kind of stuff. It's like, okay. It's, like a guy like Carlos Gonzalez who had a good career, but it's like, he's not a Hall of Famer. But it's just, it's just one of those things that I've kind of moved past on. It's just like, okay, it's just kind of how it is.
You should apply to be a member so you can vote. I'm looking at it right now.
I mean, I'd have to look and see. I mean, the three guys who made it, I would have voted for.
Right.
I definitely would have voted for those three, but
I mean, why can't you apply and be a part of that?
Because I don't write about pro baseball.
But there's how many voters on this? The 500, 400?
I guess.
So,
I guess they all can't either, but
go for it, man.
Yeah.
I would. Why not? They say no.
I do like that Ichiro's trying to coax that person out by saying he'll have a beer with him. Maybe I should say it was me just so I can have a beer with Ichiro.
That'd be funny. But yeah, it's just, to me, I was like, I thought he was gonna get in because, and I'm not saying he shouldn't, but like, okay, Mariano Rivera got in as unanimous. I'm like, so these other guys, you've got that one guy that's in there,
right?
And it's just
right. And you just look at it like, I mean, Ichiro, his impact, not just, I mean, great player, obviously fantastic hitter, not the biggest power hitter in the world, but still great hitter. Good defender in right field, cannon for an arm, like, and also the cultural impact. Like when Ichiro came over from Japan, it was a big darn deal.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that kind of, because I think Hideo Nomo was really the first, Japanese player to do it, and that was, not that far long before that, but like, it was just another level with Ichiro because Ichiro was such a revered figure in Japan.
Yep.
And yeah, then obviously to go along with that, the other two, I mean, CC, I mean, come on, I mean, we can. Obviously, that's the one Brewers fans, can speak a little bit more too.
I was going to ask you about CC here because, we were talking about him the other day and such. And you and I have talked about 08 quite a bit, and that was our first playoff run in our lifetime for Brewers, as Brewers fans and such. And I thought it was, I'm sure you read Adam McCulvey's piece on Brewers.com, some quotes from Doug Melvin, how the trade transpired and such. But the thing I wanted to ask you with the whole CC thing, did that trade alone and the success that the Brewers had getting to the playoffs, I still feel like maybe this franchise has the effects from that because that almost felt like that was a starting point, because it changed for us a lot. We're like, we were just happy to be there till just a couple years ago. That philosophy, I think, changed for a lot of Brewers fans. Like, okay, we're not just happy to be there anymore. We want to win more.
Right. I think so. I think the biggest thing is I think it just gave maybe everybody, fans, organization, everyone, just a taste of it. Because remember in 07, they had a really good year and then they faded down the stretch. So to come back in 08, to make that big splash in the way they did. And the funny thing too about that trade is you look at the prospects that Cleveland got back, the guy that everybody heard of didn't end up working out. That was Matt Laporta. The guy that was the player to be named later was the guy that had the really good career, and that was Michael Brantley. And so, like, with prospects, you never know. But like, yeah, I think that was one that it kind of got you over the finish line. We're like, oh, like, because it had been 26 years, like, and to experience that, and for the organization to go for it, like to say, hey, look, we understand this is a shorter term thing. Like, as much as everyone kind of hoped, everybody knew CC Sabathia wasn't re-signing with the Brewers. He was going to get a bunch of money to go somewhere else. But there's not a person out there that can't say he didn't do everything he could to help that team. To the point where even in the McCulvey piece, like his, I think Doug Melvin said, like, CC's agent was like, what are you doing? And CC's like, no, this is, and CC told
stopped taking the calls from his agent.
He's like, no, this is my decision. This is what I'm going to go on 3 days rest, because obviously there's an injury risk with that. But that was very much kind of a seminal moment for the Brewers franchise, where it's like, okay, here they are. And obviously 2009 and 10, you had largely that same group, but you just the pitching wasn't quite in line, and then it was in 2011, and from there on out, I mean, the rest is kind of history. But
it was. I mean, we knew that they rode his back and that, but to see, kind of revisit some of the numbers again, to see,
it's crazy.
Over 130 innings, was it, in 82 days, 17 starts, and 7 of those were complete games.
He was like, what, 5th in the NL MVP voting? Like, he got legitimate votes for the NL MVP, even though he only pitched for the team for 3 months.
If there was like a half season MVP award, he would have got it.
Right, like a second half.
Second. I mean, just see, and then, was it 3 in July, complete games, 3 in August, and then the last game of the year in September was a complete game.
Right.
And almost had a no hitter. I mean, he was raking at the plate too. It was just, there's different moments of that. And I mean, that was, I think it kind of changed the course, I think, for me and for a lot of Brewers fans too.
It gave us a spark, because, that young core had brought many fans kind of back, or, because it's this younger group. It's Braun, it's Fielder, it's Hardy, it's Weeks, it's Sheets, like Hart, like, there was reason to kind of be excited. And then I just feel like that was the thing that kind of put it over the top. It wasn't like, okay, hey, maybe they could be good. It's like, oh no, they're expecting to be good.
And then the Ken Maka era after that. So, the thing I kind of forgot. So this just popped up on my social media Twitter feed yesterday, was that final game and Brawny hitting that home run, and he's in the dugout. I kind of forgot Robin Yount was in the dugout helping out Dale Swain.
Because he had kind of taken the bench coach spot when Swaim took over for Ned Yost.
I forgot, because Brawny high five Robin Yount. I'm like, oh crap, I forgot Robin Yount was part of that for that stretch run there too. So that just made that even a little bit more cooler.
But three very deserving and very deserving, excuse me, selections, as well as the senior committee.
Parker,
Dave Parker, former Brewer.
Yep, exactly. Next year's, I did chuckle a little bit, where they say the headline first year ballots and bronze on there. The question I wanted to throw to you, and maybe we can hit this up in the next hour. We only got a couple minutes, or maybe we can hit it up right now. If everything's the same, numbers are the same, games are the same, everything is the exact same, except take away the PED attachments. Everything else is the same. So assume his suspension was injury or whatever. Same amount of games, stats, awards, everything. Does he have a shot to make the Hall of Fame then?
No.
I didn't think so either.
No, the numbers aren't there. Like, and that's the thing. Like, he's not going to be, and the PD stuff, that's not going to keep him out. What's keeping him out is just like the peak was very high. It's just the longevity. What it takes. Like, baseball more so than like football, it's about longevity. You know, obviously more recent years we've seen Pro Football Hall of Fame has let people in that have had, kind of the insane peak,
right?
But maybe not necessarily the consistency over the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Braun's at worst the third best player in Brewers history. I mean, you can debate that and kind of his place in Brewers history, but it's just it's not enough for the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame.
I do feel like that 8's going to be retired.
I do too. That's kind of, and that'll be a conversation for another day. I agree. I think that's coming at some point. Maybe at a time when maybe obviously because that would be controversial to some. Not to me. I think it should be, even though everything that comes with it, you acknowledge. I'm a believer when it comes to history. It's warts and all. Like hey, this happened. You recognize, hey, there's other stuff that comes with it, but Ryan Braun is one of the best players in Brewers history, and at some point that should happen.
In like 30 seconds, because Andy Pettit is actually trending upward to potentially maybe get in there, and he was also revealed, but he did it differently, right? He came out and acknowledged it. Yeah, I made a mistake. I did this, and I think people kind of forgot about it because he came out right away, and now he's got a positive PR compared to everybody else with that. Is it as simple as like he didn't drag it out?
No, he got out in front of it. Yeah, he kind of got out in front of it.
Yeah, and he might be getting in the Hall of Fame
might.
now.
I mean, next year that's going to be an interesting year because someone like Carlos Beltran's trending up too, but there's stuff there too.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yep. All right. 2 hours in. We got one more to go. Cream of the crop coming up next. Don't forget to get us your picks for your Super Bowl matchup. We'll make our picks towards the back end of this hour. We'll be back after these quick news updates.
Super.
All right, here we go. Final hour on this TGIF Friday. Hopefully you're all off to a absolutely fantastic starts. We're going to talk some football coming up here. I got sidetracked there. I got too many notes back here, and yeah, my mind wandered off a little bit there. I'm still looking at my top duos over here. So if I do get that first pick, do I try to be tricky or do I just go good old draft season's upon us?
It is. And no, we are not going snake draft, correct? I don't think we have.
No.
Because
no.
Yeah,
it's just back and forth.
Yep, back and forth.
Yep. All right. So should we do cream of the crop right away?
Let's do it.
Hit it up right away. So, all right, cream of the crop. All right, Brandon, who is your cream of the crop?
I am going to give it this week. I'm going to go a little bit specific on this. I'm going to go with Washington Commander fans.
Okay.
Because they've had to go through a lot. And this kind of goes to show why so many people love the NFL is how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
For a franchise. I mean, a few years ago, you still got Daniel Snyder in place. And we could go through all of the dumpster fire that was Daniel Snyder as the owner of Washington, but you get a different ownership group that kind of knows what it's doing. Remember last year when they hired Dan Quinn, he was the last coach hired.
That's right.
And it was kind of an underwhelming hire.
Yeah.
People are like, well, obviously he had some success as the D coordinator in Dallas, but then before that, obviously with Atlanta, but it wasn't like the sexy pick.
Wasn't it the story that Washington was on a plane to go talk to Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
And Johnson canceled it in midair while they were up there.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And then you do that, you get this number 2, you have the number 2 draft pick, you get Jane Daniels. Remember, who right as of right now, and we're less than a year into this, so there's a lot can change, but year one had the best year one rookie quarterback year by far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're playing in the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
Like, I just feel good for those fans because they've, if you've stuck it out, you've been through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And to come out kind of on that other side.
You think about it fan-wise, but almost like a redemption for Dan Quinn. It's his second job as a head coach.
Yeah.
Kind of a redemption for Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah.
There's those stories.
Yeah.
Our attachments over there.
Right.
So,
and that just kind of goes to show us some of these coaching hires, you just never know.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn was one that I'm sure if you went back and look at the grades, when they came out, he probably wasn't ranked very high.
Mm-hmm.
But he's done an excellent job there.
Yeah, it wasn't the sexy pick.
No, it wasn't, but it's looking like it was the right pick.
Mm-hmm. Tells you too, just changing a culture within a team.
Right.
The mindset there a little bit. So good one. I'm also going with a fan base. What? You gave me like a you were gonna say
I thought you were gonna say the same thing.
Oh no. I'm going with a fan base though. Bills Mafia. And I know I mentioned it earlier this week, and it does pay me to say this as a Packers fan. But if you want to tell me that Bills Mafia is the number one fan base in football, I probably would agree with you. Because what I think they do, the Mark Andrews is going to have, he's had a tough week.
Yes.
He's probably going to have a tough offseason. So what does Bills Mafia do? They raise over $100,000 for his charity. Mark Andrews, a tight end for the
Ravens.
For the Ravens that dropped the 2-point earlier, fumbled on that drive. And he was just getting crap.
Right.
Just getting crap. But Bills Mafia goes out there and starts donating money to his charity. They did it with Andy Dalton's charity a few years ago when I think they beat the Ravens in that final game to help the Buffalo Bills.
There was something to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like that was when they made the playoffs because Andy Dalton was quarterbacking elsewhere and helping them.
Yeah. I think it was his last year maybe with the Bengals or something like that. And there's been other instances with this too.
Yeah.
I want to hang out with Bills fans at a tailgate. I don't want to jump on a table.
You could.
But I will say if we have any Bills fans listening and you're going to the draft, hang out with us. We want to.
We'll find.
We might have to add that to our bingo card when we go to the draft.
Yeah.
Some Bills Mafia
Bills
members.
fans bring a table to the broadcast.
Yes. So I gotta create that's we're so into rivalries and such.
Right.
Not saying Ravens and Bills are a rivalry or anything like that, but
it's good to see.
Yeah, from a fan base.
Some good can come out of that.
Because a lot of other fan bases would probably be poking fun at Mark Andrews too and pointing a finger at that. So kudos to you guys.
Yeah.
Kudos to Bills Mafia over there. That was Pretty cool. The other one I was going to pick was Jane Daniels, though, too.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the thing I appreciate about Jane Daniels, I don't know if you noticed it, too, watching the Lions game. And over the weekend, for all the talk, Patrick Mahomes and all that. By the way, this Chiefs and Bills game, you're going to see two quarterbacks go like this a lot, looking for the flag, raising their arms and looking for it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes got a lot of the attention this week. Josh Allen does the same thing a lot, too. Well, I mean, he was doing it in a Ravens game. I mean, that's annoying. Jane Daniels, there was a couple times, dude got hit, like, because of sidelines. I think there was even one I tweeted out, said, that's Patrick Mahomes, there's a flag. What does Jane Daniels do? He gets up and he, like, goes and taps the opponent. Like, all good. Doesn't make us think about it.
Yep.
This is a guy, a running quarterback that's, I don't know if it's like he's a rookie yet. So, first of all,
he's going to have to learn.
Yep. But like the fact that he's not thrown out there and throwing a fit, like he was getting in the middle of like a couple of dust ups and saying, all good, and breaking it up. Kudos to the rookie for doing that. Yeah. Like, and again, I don't know. I think eventually if he continues to develop like this, yes, he will get a little bit of favoritism. And we'll see if his mindset changes a little bit. But the fact that he was out there doing that too and just like ignoring it and saying we're all good, kudos. Yeah. I appreciate that watching it. I don't know if anybody else noticed that in the Lions game, but there was a couple times where, sidelines, he got hit. And I'm like, oh, if that's Mahomes, there's a flag.
Right.
Dude just gets up, taps the guy on the helmet saying we're all good.
Play on.
And you're going on. So I appreciate that from the youngster.
Yeah.
Over there. So, all right. That's cream of the crop this morning. Do you think
sometimes,
do you think there is a little favoritism when it comes to Mahomes?
I think,
or is it?
I think
superstar quarterbacks.
I think superstar athletes get benefits of the doubt.
Yeah.
And he's one of them. I mean, he's probably at the top of that list. But I mean, you can look in other sports, be it like a LeBron or someone like that in basketball, or do star pitchers get a little bit more off the corner, from calls at the plate? Probably. Do star hitters get a little bit less? Do they not have that corner they have to worry about when they're at the plate? Yeah, probably. So I think so, but I don't know if it's necessarily specifically we must do this for Patrick Mahomes as much as it is like it just happens with star players.
So then let me ask, because I agree with you. I think star players get the benefit of the doubt. Do you fault those star players for exploiting that to the benefit of their team? You know what I'm getting at with
right,
that,
right? I think it's one thing to get the calls. It's another thing to ask for the calls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you're, I think that's
when you're doing your best Vlade Divac impression with flopping and that.
Right. That's when it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm.
When you get it, look, if you get a call, don't say no. This isn't that. This isn't one of those sportsmanship pass it on commercials where the kid goes and tells the official, "No, I touched the ball." Like if the official gives you the call, you take it, but you don't have to ask for it every single time.
Yeah,
that I think is what drives a lot of people crazy.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I did appreciate about Rodgers this year, Aaron Rodgers, because there was a hit on him, and he even acknowledged in the presser afterwards. He's like, "That shouldn't have been a penalty," and you could see on the field too where he said something like, "No, there was that moment." So I appreciate players when they kind of go out there and do that.
Yeah.
Are they apologizing for the penalty to help out the team? Probably not.
No.
They'll take the penalty and if it helps out their team. But you're right. Like when you're the whole flop, that bothers me. That bugs me as a fan. Now, are we saying if it's our favorite guy doing it? Probably not as much.
No, but
but I'm curious with all the talk, and even the next day, Walt Anderson goes on NFL Network to talk about it and downplay it all. I'm very curious to see how this is officiated this weekend now.
Yeah, because you got it on both ends.
Mm-hmm. And it's in Kansas City. Is it the same? Is it because I feel like in the other games, because I was so like, oh, that's going to be a flag and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it might have been the Eagles and Rams game or something like that, where they're like, oh yeah, they're letting them play a little bit more. I'm like, is that going to happen with Bills and Chiefs? I think whoever's officiating, I can look it up right now. And I love it because somebody broke it down. Like whoever's officiating, the head official, the Chiefs have like a 6-5 record with that official. Whereas the official last week, Chiefs are undefeated with that official. I don't want to be the official in that for that game. Because there is that added extra pressure, I think, into that game. But I'm very curious to see how the NFL does that.
Right.
Because I think if you see it maybe go a complete opposite, then I think you're going to have a lot of people say, yeah, they just admitted last week was a screw up.
Right.
So, but could have an over-under of Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, like meme faces and shoulder shrugs and hands up in the air sort of thing in this game. It's going to be stop. Just stop. Please don't do this. You know, that I hate that. It bothers me so much. And that's what bothers me about the NBA too, when you're constantly looking for calls with that. So, all right, let's take a quick break, regroup, and we'll talk a little bit more football. We got some coaching updates too. I think you're doing well on the picks.
I am 3-1 right now on my coach picks.
Yeah, I was thinking about that now. Thanks to, Jaguars coming to their senses for crying out loud on one. That's just whatever.
It's a weird situation, but
yeah, we'll get into it coming up here in just a couple minutes. We'll be back after these quick words. Since I missed it just past 8 o'clock, I blame Brandon for this. It's just fully
what I do?
Put the blame on Brandon. Exactly. You didn't do anything. You didn't remind me. So, save the date. Not register yet. Save the date. So get your calendars out. Get your phones out. Day planners. I could probably use a day planner because I've been screwing up appointments and such. I never had one in school. Did you have this homework assignment thing?
Yeah.
We got them, but I never used it.
the first thing I would do every year was count down how many days until school was done. And I would write it down in there. So I always knew it was like, it's 84 days till school's done.
I never used it. I always, for the most part, I was like 95% success rate of remembering stuff. Older I get, the more I'm forgetting.
This was your 5%?
Probably, yeah. Oh, there's been a couple other things this week too I completely forgot about. So, and then I had to reschedule stuff. Anyways, August 1st, Friday, August 1st, keeping with the tradition of the first Friday in August, our golf outing, the 5th annual. 5. New location, we will be at Lake Hallie Golf Course this year. So Lake Hallie Golf Course, a lot of stuff same. We're going to do the early tee time again for anybody, and then the normal 10 and 1s over there. So
I'm sure we'll be broadcasting there.
Oh, yeah. August 1st, Friday, August 1st, Lake Hallie Golf Course, 5th annual Casper Classic.
It's going to be awesome.
Put it.
Already looking forward to it.
Put it on your calendars. Put it on your dates. More details to come for registration and such. So, all right, let's talk a little football, shall we? Talk a little football coaching updates here. So Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. We knew that. Vrabel was the one right away.
That was kind of our bingo middle square.
Yep. Aaron Glenn goes to the Jets.
You got that one right.
I did. And then the one I wanted to pick, but I like Trent Baalke's not going to do it, or nobody wants to go there because of Trent Baalke. And then what happens? The Jaguars fire Trent Baalke, and all of a sudden now they have a new coach. Weird how stuff like that works. Liam Cohen, which was a weird situation last night because it was the day before he was going to be the highest paid offensive coordinator. Jaguars fired GM. Oh, now I'll talk to you guys again.
Right.
Now he's going to be the Jaguars coach. Everybody was saying that he was ghosting the Bucs yesterday. His wife actually tweeted out this morning that they were at the hospital for their kid. So that's why he wasn't answering messages and such. Just a weird situation over, the whole thing. Which I didn't know. Was it Rick Stroud that tweeted this? Or somebody tweeted this? That in 2000, twice, Bill Parcells said he was taking the job for the Bucs and said no. 1991 and 2001 or 2002.
So that's when they went Gruden.
That's when they went with Gruden.
Wow.
I did not hear that before.
Me either.
So, and then he said Chip Kelly originally said yes and then said no and stayed at Oregon. I think that was 12, somewhere around there. So that's why they're saying Bucs they're used to this.
Yeah.
At this point. So this will be the third offensive coordinator though for the Bucs because
in 3 years because last year Dave Canales went to Carolina.
Yep. So, when we did our coaching predictions over there too, we had the wild card of like Dallas sort of thing. That one's weird.
That is.
I mean, if it is Kellen Moore, okay, I get it. That's what I thought. But yesterday the word was it was going to be Schottenheimer.
Which is,
to me, that just screams Jerry trying to prove he's the smartest person in the room.
It also screams to me like Jerry just wants a crony.
Yeah. And then we heard Rich Bisaccia could get
an interview.
Apparently, they talked to Pete Carroll a little bit, which that would be a weird.
Well, it would be
duo,
weird. Like it would be weird going from McCarthy to Pete Carroll.
Yeah, it would be.
Like if that's the case, might as well just keep McCarthy.
Mm-hmm. So, I'd have no idea who they're going to go with.
I don't know either. Obviously, it doesn't look like it's going to be any college coaches. So
no, Steve Sarkisian
or Lincoln Riley
or anything like that. But yeah, the Schottenheimer one, I'm like. That Jerry still wants to have control, and he's going to try to prove something. And
he's been trying to prove something for 30 years.
Yeah. What's more important at this stage in your life, Jerry? Getting another trophy or trying to prove how smart or how much you're in control in this thing? I'd rather have a trophy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Is it fair to say? I know they won one without him with Switzer, but if
that was Jimmy Johnson's team.
Yeah. If Jimmy would have stayed a few more years, would they have had another one or two?
Maybe because you're getting to the end of that prime for that group, and obviously you had other teams coming along like the Packers and some others. So maybe not, but it just it's an ego thing.
Mm-hmm. And I just wow. So I mean, you got the Saints still opening, the Dallas one still opening, the Raiders. Oh, I thought I was going to get to the Ben Johnson one there. The more it was coming down. My whole conspiracy theory of Tom Brady and announcing all those Lions games. I thought I was looking smart after all that.
I did. Going into that game last weekend, even coming out of it, I'm like, I think you're right. And then, like, wasn't it the thing, like, he didn't say Ben Johnson's name on the broadcast?
Yeah. Yeah. He never said his name.
So it's like, So either, I mean, you can look at that either way. You can look at that as, okay, he didn't want to be seen as being that, or he was like, maybe by then he knew, and he was like, I'm not saying her name on the broadcast.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's just how it worked. But either way, like,
I was like, oh, I'm gonna nail this one.
Yeah, now.
No. Now maybe that is Pete Carroll.
That might be. That's, I mean, because obviously I'm not going to get the Saints right because I had the Saints for Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like the Cowboys have interviewed Cliff Kingsbury, so I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
So Pete Carroll's kind of the last one I could get right, I think, realistically.
Okay, so I had Joe Brady for the Saints. That's right. So we'll see. I mean, he's still in the playoffs and that. Maybe it's McCarthy going back. I don't know, but that seems to be I have no idea on that one anymore. My pick's still live for that one, but I don't know where this is tough now with these final three. Like Dallas, it's just weird.
You don't know.
It felt like it was Kellen Moore. The Dion one, I just don't see.
No.
Then Kellen Moore right away, but then maybe it changes if the Eagles lose or something like that. Raiders, gosh, I feel like if they had a quarterback in place, it might be a clear picture of like who they would want.
And the thing too is they're in a tough spot where I don't know if they're going to get one.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders are going to go, you would think, pretty high, even though I'm not sure they're in that, they should be in that spot, but quarterbacks are always going to get picked higher. That's just how it is. You've got quarterback needy teams up there, Tennessee and Giants, etc. Like, yeah, I mean, because that's always been that's been a team I've seen connect a lot with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
And
I think that's going to depend on the coach and offensive coordinator.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And who would that be I don't know. Some of the names out there. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, I could see Carroll, but again, remember, he's older or same age as Bill Belichick.
Yeah. I mean, he acts younger.
Right.
I mean, he's a very energetic person.
Absolutely. Fantastic shape for that. I hope I'm at that, and I probably will be, but But you have to wonder, okay, how many years is that? That's not a long-term hire.
Right.
So, and then you factor in the division, pretty darn competitive when 3 teams in that division out of 4 all went to the playoffs this year. So, yes, we've seen teams do instant turnarounds and such, but
that's a tougher proposition.
Exactly. So, yeah, I have no good idea how that's going to go anymore now. I know they got their GM, and I'm trying to think, they hired the assistant from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe they're thinking they could get Liam Cohen over there too. I don't know, with the Bucs connection and such. So, but it's going to be interesting. I do think maybe we'll get a little bit more clear. It's sped up with the Lions losing, and Ben Johnson.
That just accelerates so quickly.
Bigger loss, or not bigger loss. Bigger hire for the Bears for Ben Johnson, or a bigger loss for the Lions losing Ben Johnson?
I'm going to say Bears. Bigger hire for the Bears. And I think it's also a double whammy because you are hurting a division foe. But, I mean, Ben Johnson was the cream of the crop of the coaching candidates, it seemed like. He was the one that basically, if your team could have got him, your team wanted them.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, now kind of is where the rubber meets the road, where we see, like, it's one thing to be that offensive mind, but being a head coach is about more than just X's and O's.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the same thing any coach comes into when they become a head coach. So, we shall see. But, I mean, we're seeing the Detroit brain drain here this offseason with offensive coordinator, defensive line coach leaving.
Possibly. Did their offensive line coach get promoted? Because he was interviewing for Seattle's offensive coordinator job, Detroit's offensive line coach. That was a few days ago, so I haven't heard anything after that. But yeah, and then Detroit snoops in and gets Casey Rogers for their defensive line coach, and he was interviewing with Green Bay for the same spot. Jerks. I think that was every Packers fan's pick for that, for what they wanted. But I am very curious to see the big question mark I will have for this Lions team going into next year, Jared Goff. With
someone else.
Yeah. With Ben Johnson out. Does Jared Goff still play at the level that he did the last 3 years? Is there a regression to at that level at the end of the Rams where McVay didn't want anything to do with him, sort
Right.
of thing. And like, take him. We'll give you a first-round pick to take him, sort of thing. That to me is going to be the biggest question mark, I think, for the Lions next year is Jared Goff, and can he continue to play at that level that he was the last couple of years under Ben Johnson?
Yeah.
And until then, it's going to be a question mark. It's going to be
Right.
an unknown.
This is, I mean, the Detroit Lions are going to experience now what a lot of successful teams do, which is when you get successful at a certain point, you kind of get rated a little bit.
And I think that goes back to our conversation with these coaching hires. Dan Campbell wasn't a play caller coach. So if you're having success, but you're not the play caller, a lot of your coordinators are going to get plucked, right? Whereas,
because that's looked at as being more, I mean, you're calling the plays. Like,
whereas Minnesota, if Kevin O'Connell wasn't the play caller on the offensive side, your offensive coordinator may be looking at getting some head coaching
right. That's
jobs.
why, I mean, you don't hear a lot about Phillips, his 1st name.
Wes
Phillips. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot about that because it's a lot like when Mike Zimmer was the Vikings defensive coordinator and they had George Edwards, or the coach, and George Edwards was the defensive coordinator. He got some hire or some interviews, but people knew, like, there's always that little extra panache that comes with when you're the play caller.
Right.
Because you don't have to be. Kevin O'Connell didn't call plays.
Yeah,
for
he
Rams,
didn't call. Yeah.
But like, you can be. You don't have to be, but that's just always something that seems like you're going to get extra credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, LaFleur was the offense coordinator for the Rams, but he wanted to go call plays to improve his stock. So he went to Tennessee for a year, and then boom, he's the head coach.
Yeah.
Stenovich got an interview with the Bears. He doesn't call plays, but you hear one interview, and I don't think anybody thought that was going to happen. But it can happen. It can happen, but it also goes, I think, to if you have a quarterback that you want to help out a quarterback, should your head coach be the offensive play caller? Because then you're not starting over every couple of years.
You have consistency with them.
Right. Because that by all probably accounts, the head coach isn't going to leave unless he's fired because he stinks or something.
Yeah, and then it don't matter.
Right. And that's where, again, I'll go back to circle around. I think Jared Goff's, there's going to be a question mark surrounding that. So I think that factors in for a lot of people when they hire a coach. Like the whole, should they call plays, should they not call plays sort of thing. There's more to it because do you want that continuity? Even Mike McCarthy, when he was calling plays for Green Bay back in the day, yeah, Joe Philbin got a head coaching job with the Dolphins after that, but there wasn't a whole lot of, you hear all these other offensive coordinators like, man, they're not getting interviews. And Eric Bieniemy.
Yeah.
Because what was the question? Like, well, is he calling plays or is it Andy Reid calling plays? That was kind of the narrative. And then he's not doing very good in interviews and that sort of stuff. But that was the thing, is like, because you'd see both of them with their call sheets up there.
Yep.
Who's calling the plays? So, but yeah, I think it's a big win for the Bears because one, it's a win because I think it adds some credibility. It's like, okay, they need this type of coach. They got that type of coach.
Right.
But like you said, it's different from coming up with an offensive game plan. Now you've got to run a whole program, right? You're the guy for the whole program, and this is your first time doing it. Not to say you won't be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, Kevin O'Connell, Matt, all those guys first year successful. But it's different. And I think if he does get Dennis Allen as a defense coordinator, which is rumored, I think it's smart for those first time to get a veteran defensive coordinator.
You pair somebody where you just say, look, I trust you. You take care of the defense is your baby. I'll worry about the offense.
Yep.
And we'll meet in the middle.
Right. Yeah. I think that's smart. If it doesn't work for the first year, Kevin O'Connell and Vic Fangio's disciple, Ed Donatel, right?
Yes.
But he was a veteran defensive coordinator.
Yeah, the thought process was sound. It's just Donatel didn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you move on. But you had a veteran that, has done it for a while. But yeah, I don't have a good gauge on these rest of these other ones here too.
No.
Do you have Chiefs fatigue?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we'll get to, I mean, it depends. Like if they're playing the Eagles, I'll cheer for the Chiefs.
Oh, I suppose. That, yeah.
I'm bitter.
That. Yeah, I get that.
I'm bitter. But
I just think it's natural to have Chiefs fatigue.
And you have anybody in that spot.
we were like that with the Patriots. Everybody was. I
Yeah.
think that's a big reason why people say they don't like Tom Brady. We're fatigued by it
Yeah.
because we saw it all the time.
You saw him win too much.
I didn't like Jordan as a kid. I saw it too much,
Mhm.
and it wasn't my favorite team. For other people, it goes the opposite way. Like, especially for younger people. Well, I'm a Chiefs fan because they win all the time. That's kind of the
Mhm.
direct. So it goes both ways. If you already have your team and that other team is like, no, that dumb, stupid. But especially if you're a younger fan, maybe.
I remember vividly in the 90s trying to talk, it was when the Cowboys played the Steelers in the Super Bowl. And at that point, that was, Cowboys obviously very established in the 90s, and having a conversation with a friend of mine trying to convince him that Neil O'Donnell was going to lead the Steelers past the Cowboys for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That did not happen.
Larry Brown.
Stan Humphries is going to quarterback the Chargers to beat the 49ers.
Yes.
And then the game started.
Yes. Okay. Off tangent here. I saw this post on Facebook, and it's exactly right. I'm going to get the post up here because I think we need to make this a segment between you and me every Friday. Okay. Because you just you reiterated that with a couple names that you just threw out there with Stan Humphries and Neil O'Donnell. But this was a post. Dudes can literally just sit around and name old sports players and just have the best time.
Yeah.
I think you and I need to do that every Friday. Just every Friday, we have a random player that we just throw out there and say, Stan Humphries. Go and talk about Stan Humphries for just name a random player. Because that I saw that post and I'm like, yeah, it's right. Because you just did it right there. And I'm like, oh gosh. Because I had the flashbacks of Neil O'Donnell throwing a pick to Larry Brown. And that was the age where the Raiders signed every Super Bowl MVP. Larry Brown, Desmond Howard after that, oh, they get Super Bowl MVP. We got to bring them aboard over there. And it's like, oh, but it's like random Friday, random sports person Friday or something like that. And we just go on a full tangent about them. Draw it in a hat. It's got to be random. We can't pick it ahead of time. It's got to be random. Maybe from like the 90s or something like that. So we don't get too far in the weeds. What are you looking at over there? You're not paying attention. I'm calling you out right now.
Getting in the weeds.
You're getting in the weeds?
Stan Humphries.
No, you weren't, were you?
No.
Okay. Neil O'Donnell. Didn't he play for he played for the Jets too, didn't he?
Yeah, Titans.
Early Titans. Yep. Kerry Collins. Just naming random guys. All right, let's take a break and we'll get to some picks and predicts here. Then we'll talk some more about
test for it.
Just random Didn't we say we were going to do, what was it, the best quarterbacks to not make a Pro Bowl?
I think we did.
Did we do that?
I think we did.
Okay.
Because wasn't Flacco on there?
Flacco, yeah, he was on there. But Tyrod Taylor made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, we looked this up one day. I remember that.
Yeah. Because Pennington was a part of that conversation, I think, too, and he made one.
I think he was.
Yeah. We have to do a top 5, though. I don't think we did a top 5.
We just had the conversation.
Yeah. That might be a top 5. Because everybody's in a Pro Bowl now except for Joe Flacco.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
He's elite.
He's elite. All right, final break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Wrapping things up. We got about 17 minutes to the top of the hour here. We got some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room. Every time the chicken wing. Never mind. There's another story there. Anyways, if you're looking for somewhere to watch some of these games, maybe the games on Sunday, conference championships and such, you can head on over to the Elbow Room, warm up, grab some cool beverages, and watch some football because we're not going to have them anymore. Just 2 more Sundays. 2 more Sundays of football.
You're not counting the Pro
No.
Bowl?
It's not Pro Bowl. It's like Pro Bowl activities or whatever sort of thing. No, I don't get up in arms about it.
Yeah.
It's for the kids.
It is
That's,
what,
you
yeah.
know,
Like,
it's for the kids.
let's
so.
put it this way: it'd be one thing if right before they made the changes, the Pro Bowl was like revered and everyone like played super hard in it.
Yeah.
They don't, so it
No.
doesn't matter.
I did see a clip the other day of Sean Taylor. Was it Norman the punt, or who was the punter that he just lit up? My God, the good old days.
You know they need to bring back
What?
the NFL quarterback coach.
Oh,
challenge.
I agree. I love going back and watching that stuff.
Here's Vin. Yeah.
Yep. Who throws it the farthest? Who can throw on the moving targets? I mean,
They've kind of done some of that with the Pro Bowl, so that's cool.
I just wish they had the top quarterback still doing it.
Right.
Because I'm like, oh, Favre, oh, Elway, those guys. Marinos
Now it would be like Sam Darnold would be like on the marquee.
He'd be the number one.
Yeah.
Over there. Him, Gardner Minshew, and the list goes on. Just so
Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito. By the way, how awkward and how many people went Saturday night, when Teddy Bridgewater came into the game for a couple of
I did. I was
literally off of
like,
coaching
"Hey,
high
it's
school.
Teddy."
Yeah.
And then I complimented him on his great handoff that led to the touchdown.
Yeah, right? I mean, for crying out loud. What the heck were you doing, Washington, by the way? Like, he's probably not going to throw it. Be prepared. Anyways, 3 weeks removed from leading his high school team to a state championship, and he's
back.
He's back.
That's the power of Mark Brunell, baby.
God, I was like, he's got some
hair. Yes, he does.
Holy moly. So I was like, oh, yeah, he signed up a couple weeks ago. He's already the backup.
Boy, that says a lot about Hendon Hooker, doesn't it?
I was just going to say. Yeah, what does that say about
Well,
Hendon
to be
Hooker?
fair, they're about the same age.
That's true.
That was a joke about Hendon Hooker coming out, that he was like 25 or whatever when he was drafted.
Yeah, it's part of the rumors too. I remember with the whole Ben Johnson Raiders one, that when I started picking up, then there was like, oh, does that mean Hendon Hooker could be a possibility? I'm like, we don't really have to try to connect dots all the time for certain people.
Well, I think people just try to do that in general with things.
Yeah. All right. So before we do some football picks, let's do some basketball picks here first. Sunday, Badgers taking on Nebraska.
I'm gonna take the Badgers to bounce back. Badgers got to learn to play defense. Like that was a game that was very much there. They just couldn't get stops down the stretch.
Yeah.
But I think they bounced back. Honestly, if they would have beat one on Wednesday, or it was Tuesday, wasn't it? I think it was Tuesday.
Yeah.
If they're the one, I might have picked them to lose this game because Nebraska's not a bad team. But I'm going to say Wisconsin bounces back, gets the win at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go Wisconsin too. Marquette takes on Villanova tonight.
I'm going to say Marquette bounces back as well. They had the loss to Xavier a little bit earlier.
Yeah. They did beat Seton Hall this week.
They beat Seton Hall, but like this is a little, I'm going to take Marquette.
Yep, I'll take Marquette too. To Saturday, we've got the Bucks, who've been spending a lot of time in planes lately, now in the West Coast, taking on the Clippers tomorrow night.
Starting a trip. I mean, that's a quick turnaround, but I'm going to take the Bucks.
I'm going to take the Bucks too. I'll take them winning that one. So, okay, let's do our pick. So, if it has to be two of them, give me who you want to be in the Super Bowl and give me who you think it'll be in the Super Bowl.
I want Bills Commanders. I want a rematch of 91 or whatever that was in the Metrodome. Blow up the Metrodome again so we can play there. But I'm going to take Chiefs and Eagles.
Oh, you're so boring.
I am. I don't want it.
You're so boring.
Hey, my Super Bowl prediction for the preseason was alive until Sunday started.
If it's both of those again,
I'm not saying I want it.
I mean, I'll still watch it, but it's like, ugh, yuck-y taste in my mouth. I'm gonna go. Well, the one I already said was Bills and Commanders.
Yes.
Because at that point, I don't care who wins.
No.
I just want a good game.
Yeah.
I don't care who wins that game. and I could just sit back and watch a game and enjoy it and all that sort of stuff.
And not just be annoyed.
Yeah. Well, I'll be annoyed by maybe where's a good commercial coming in from.
Yeah, well, we're waiting.
Yep. So I want that. My pick to what's going to happen: Bills beat the Chiefs. I'll go Eagles. I almost went with Commanders there. They've got some vibe though.
They do. They've got vibe.
Yeah.
And that's like I don't know. Especially I think coming off the Detroit game, like I feel like, and I'm not even gonna say it's like a letdown.
Yeah.
But can they rise to that occasion again?
If you had to pick one of the teams that you picked to lose, which one do you think has the better shot to go to the Super Bowl?
Buffalo.
Bills or okay.
Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah. That one I think is much more of closer to a 50-50 game, than the Eagles. Like I think I'm gonna take the Eagles like 30-20.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so you mentioned already if it was Chiefs Eagles, you're rooting for the Chiefs.
Yes.
Because
because I'm better.
That's fine. I don't like the Eagles either. So I mean, I respect Saquon Barkley.
Oh yeah. It's not that I don't respect them. I just don't like them.
I don't like them either. So no, go away. Go away. Fly, Eagles, fly away to the south for the winter. I don't know if the Eagles don't do that, but
perfect world is Washington wins and a player on the team that makes the big game-changing play is bald. So that way, somewhere that Rob Domofsky can just be like, yeah, you take that Eagles fan that stormed the press box after the Packer playoff game.
Can you tweet at him? And, if that does happen, make sure you tweet at him, okay? And bring that up.
I'm sure
Or do you want me to text him that? And that,
He doesn't know me from a hole in the ground. He knows you. Here's the thing. If that happens for the draft in April, if we get Rob on the show, I will ask him about that.
Oh, he's already coming on. So yeah.
Okay, let me ask him that question because you're gonna have all these great Packer questions to answer. I'm just gonna be the jerk there in the Viking shirt. He's be like, "What are you doing here?" And I at least give me that question that I can ask him, so I can ask him something.
You're the comedic relief in this.
That's usually the case.
So yes, yeah, absolutely. You just write it down so you don't forget.
Oh, I won't forget.
Okay, just making sure that you don't forget because now you put it out there, so. You gotta do it. Gotta follow through. Just saying. So, oh gosh, I can't wait for that. That's gonna be so fun over there in a couple months.
It's coming up.
Think about it. A couple months.
It's like 2 months away. Yeah, it's about 2 months away.
We got a couple irons in the fire of where we're gonna be doing this.
We'll let you know more when we know more.
Yep. I don't want to say names or locations because I don't want to put false hope or anything out there yet.
The draft is exactly 2 months from today.
Is it really?
24th.
It's not 2 months from today. It's 3 months from today.
I thought it was February for some reason. That makes more sense. I don't know why I thought it was February.
It's like, wait, 2? No, got to be 3. Okay. But still, 3 months from today. Right? No.
Yeah, 3 months from today.
Okay, yeah.
February, March, April. 24th is a Thursday. It's the last Thursday of April.
Why am I? See, you got me screwed up because I'm thinking today's the 26th, but no, it's the 24th. So, you're right, yeah. Gosh, remember back in the 90s too, Brandon? Like this is the weekend of the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because when you see all the people that are like, oh, 30 years ago, what? Yeah,
like this was the weekend. Now it's like,
and everything's a little bit later anyway. But like, yeah,
I don't mind it.
I don't either. But I will say, college football needs to figure it out about the national title game.
Tell.
That's too late. People forgot
the
about
start time or
not the start time actually wasn't bad.
Are you talking about the day?
The day.
Okay.
It needs to be it just needs to be a little earlier.
Like in the calendar year?
Yes.
Okay. But I mean, they had a week off, right? To prepare for it after their other bowl games.
You got to find a way.
No matter, you got to figure it out.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Figure it out. Figure it out.
Just start the college football season earlier and just move everything back and start it earlier that way. I do say, I mean, they get overshadowed because of NFL playoffs,
right?
Too.
A lot of people just forgot.
Yeah. So I mean, God, You can't do it on a weekend, though.
It's not. Yeah, I'm not saying it's easy.
Can you do it on a Friday night? Then that would probably annoy a lot of people, though, too, because it's Friday night.
It wouldn't annoy me. I'd rather have a Friday night than a Monday night.
I wish the Super Bowl was on a Saturday night.
Oh, yeah. Or there wasn't the discussion about putting on like President's Day?
Don't do that. Don't do it on a Monday through Friday. Because
No. I mean, I'm putting on a Sunday of President's Day weekend.
I get that, but because then people would have the next day off. I don't. Okay, I don't. I want the day off. So,
But yeah, Saturday would be
Saturday
preferred.
Yeah, I don't care. The rest of you could have the money off. That doesn't help
Although,
me.
actually, Sundays work better for me than Saturdays.
Well, boo-hoo to you.
Well, you know what? Why don't you care what I think?
I suppose, yeah, you got basketball games.
You
on Saturday
normally
nights
that
and
time of year, like
so-
Saturdays, I'm pretty busy, so
I
it doesn't bother me. But I understand that my schedule is not normal
Well, it should-
compared to others.
But there is prep stuff. So, I mean, you look at that. Yeah, Sunday nights, there's not usually any other stuff going on besides maybe a college game or
There'll be
something
some
like that,
random
but-
like Sunbelt game.
Yeah. No, I would. Whatever. It
Okay.
doesn't matter. It's not moving though. It's always going to be a Sunday.
No, it's not.
It's always going to be a Sunday. So, boy, but yeah, back to the draft. Really quick.
Circling around.
Back to the draft here. If anybody's going, we had a couple people saying they're heading over, but we'll let you know if we maybe do a little get together or
Maybe
something
like a
like
meetup
that.
or something like
Yeah.
maybe like Thursday morning or something.
Yeah, plans are still in the works with everything right
Right.
now,
Everything is
so.
fluid, but there are, as Dan said, there are irons in the fire.
Mhm.
We will let you know more when we know
I'm
more.
trying my best this year.
You
to
are.
get
You've reached out to me several times and been like, hey,
this is a possibility.
this is a possibility. This is a
Yep.
possibility. I'm always same thing. Great.
Mhm.
Great.
Yep. So we're working on her.
It's gonna be
I could tell you right now, there's some places in Green Bay that still don't know what's going on in terms of like what the NFL and what Green Bay's doing right now. And they're 3 months away, not 2 months away. And they still don't know. They haven't been told anything yet. Sources tell me that. Just saying. Sources have told me that there's businesses and
You don't reveal
people
your-
within the organization still don't know what's going on.
knowledge of the situation.
Yeah, people have knowledge. They still don't know what the plan is of what they're supposed to be doing. So, yeah, I'm like, oh, cool. This is gonna go great, isn't it?
Am I a bad person for saying I want a snowstorm?
No, but yes, because if we are gonna be outside, that's gonna be miserable.
Oh, come on. We could be outside admitting. I'd rather have a snowstorm than have it be like,
Well, I don't want it raining.
yeah,
Yeah, a warm snowstorm.
a warm snowstorm.
Yeah, so like when I was at the snow globe game, 07-08 playoffs with Seattle, we were tailgating. We didn't go. We went there and we watched the game on the outside of the stadium. It was a warm snowfall. Like I wasn't like decked out. It wasn't like negative
Okay.
10. I had a hoodie and my jersey over the top and some jeans and some boots, and I was perfectly fine. I don't want to be in, like my Columbia winter negative 100-degree rated jackets and stuff.
Right. Well, here's the thing too. The draft's not coming back to Green Bay,
No.
so I don't care what the weather's like.
Okay. Jeez.
I want everyone like that would whine about that to have to whine about that.
Yeah. You know what? Stay home so we get better
Right.
viewing options
Right.
of that then too. So yeah. But golly, that's going to be a big. It's going to happen. It happened in the Super Bowl in Minnesota.
Yep. It was that
People
frigid week, and
were pissed
people
off.
were.
And I see people all this week with the snowstorm in New Orleans already like, oh, can you imagine if this was a Super Bowl? You're playing indoors. For crying out loud, people, you're playing indoors. It doesn't matter. Yes, I get travel stuff or whatever, but God forbid if there's snow on the ground. But they're already, can you imagine if this was a Super Bowl? And okay, travel stuff, I get it. But
I will say this: if they were, because they're not going to go to. I mean, I guess if they go back to New York or whatever, but like they're not going to have very many destinations that have snow. But I will say this: if there was snow for a Super Bowl, would it not be one of the most memorable Super Bowls of recent memory?
mm-hmm. I mean, what was everybody talking about with that Eagles and Rams game? Oh, that's a playoff game with the
Yeah.
snow. Unless you're Kurt Warner, who thinks every game should be indoors. I don't know if you heard that.
That's disappointing.
I saw this old, because everybody was talking about it on Twitter with that. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I tried looking, and then there was a clip. I don't know how old it was, but he talked about, teams from the West Coast having to go to the East Coast. They can't practice in that type of weather. So they're at a disadvantage of that. Whereas, their teams aren't as a disadvantage from going from the East to the West. I'm like, dude, just stop.
I think you're thinking too hard about this.
You wore 2 gloves when you threw a football. Okay, you're fine, right? You're fine. Just it's already creeping in your head, man, and you're done playing. So
and that's the thing too. Like once it starts getting in your head,
just stop. Just stop. Okay, this was just like, oh.
This is when you need that Michael Jordan clip. Just stop it.
Mm-hmm. Did you not tell your mom your draft schedule? She's wondering if we're going to be there on Friday.
I don't think she ever asked. Did she think we were leaving?
I don't know. She's because that's she said they're going to be there on Friday.
Oh, I thought they were going to be there on Saturday. Okay, that's even better then.
All right.
I'm sure we'll be there. We'll be around. Hanging out.
So tell your mom stuff, man. She should be in the know.
Tell her to ask me stuff.
Well, I guess she just did, though, technically.
Yeah, I
so,
guess. She just
that's right.
She knew that you would mention it. So
Yep. So all right, our rambling's going to be done here in 2 minutes. So
Stan Humphries.
We're going to do that. I'm going to bust out my old 90s NFL Pro Set cards and we're going to shuffle them like a deck. And
is this something we do at the draft where like we see somebody in a random jersey and we just go up to them and say random player and see what their response is?
Ooh. We got to do a couple. I like the bingo card thing that you came up with.
Bingo card for like jerseys and stuff.
Or
like,
I think we find, okay, who's tailgating at the draft? Just a random person that's got a grill and a cooler out there. Because, okay, check mark. And then, find out other ones, like who's the most random football team that we could think of that would be there. I don't know if Jaguars would be that good. I don't know. Because we did that when we went to Chicago. We were trying to find, random jerseys. I think we found all of them.
I think we did.
Yeah. I think the last one or the Harsh one was a Jaguars.
It was, because I think we saw Maurice Jones-Drew jersey.
Yeah. But I like that one too. Who's got because you do that when you go to a game, right?
Yeah.
Who's got the most random, like if it's Packers one, who's got the most random Packers?
Who's wearing a Chris Jackie jersey?
Yeah, or there's a Jerkovich jersey.
John Jerkovich jersey, yeah, you bet.
I mean, if my buddy goes over there, he's gonna probably wear his Travis Jervey jersey. So there you go. That's a winner right there at the top. So because we gotta do something to fill our day. Walk around.
We're gonna have a lot of time.
All right, I like that. Start thinking about some games we could play. It's like a scavenger hunt too that we can maybe make for some people. No cheating. People will cheat though. I don't trust people. Don't cheat. All right, but coming up as soon as we shut these mics off, we're gonna come up or we're gonna record our podcast. Top five plus, part of the Man Cave podcast there. Top 5 duos. And we can't repeat a player. We can't repeat a duo. Top 5 duos. So again, if Brandon picks Rice in Montana, I can't pick Young and Rice, and I can't pick Montana and Rice and all that stuff. So just that's how it's all going to play out over there. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to it. Should we get to it?
Yeah.
All right. So enjoy the football this weekend. DP Danuts, they're up next. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning. Or not tomorrow morning, Monday morning. I'm just too pumped for this podcast right now. We got to get to it. Talk to you Monday.